What's up, fellows? So I've gotten through all of the MidsWatches, and we're gonna record the last chunk of them. I'm on like the last 27, and this handle actually it's less than 27. It's more like I'm doing like a good 10 of them today though. Anyway, so if you haven't been here in a while and you forgot how these work, I actually record the MidsWatches live, and then I go and put them in the software, edit them up, that sort of thing. But I figure in the meantime, we can chit chat amongst ourselves and do this stuff. So I've been in like 3 audiobooks in. I've actually learned to carry the voice better. So I'm going for the marathon today, and we'll see if we can handle it. As far as the topics, things you knew before the divorce, trolling, chucking shit at feminists and all that stuff, advanced fogging, narcissistic family, guys with a Madonna horror complex. There's a bit of meta stuff in there too. And a guy's personal epiphany about, oh yeah. You know what? There's just a lot. So I've got notes. We'll go through it. What's up, fellas? And let me get your chat going. So I'll be ignoring you while I go through the reports. And then after that, we'll chit chat amongst ourselves. All right. Let's get the first one on the go. See you guys in a minute. It turns out the men's rights advocates are just a bunch of fear-mongering women, or they're completely legally illiterate. Welcome, guys. It's a MidsWatch. It's been a while since I've done one of these ones. We're in the final stretch. If you've been sticking it out for the last 109 episodes, kudos to you. It's very simple. It's just a guy, he was asking about, what do you wish you knew before your divorce? There's some details in it, but it's not super important. The big part about this is our take on it. So like Jack Ten of Hearts did like a nice little thing where he kind of got the ball rolling on what is eventually going to be called the Better Beta Divorce Guide. It's this married red pill idea of how to handle yourself through a divorce. It's not legal advice. It's more legal strategy and the way to approach these things. It really does hint on some good things. And so there's some parts that we're going to have to quote from the original one that'll help it make sense. I'll quote it there. But just know, everything you've heard about guys going through the divorce process is a lie at worst and at best. At best, it's a guy who thinks that his values and his ethics matter in a court of law. So it really is a case of like, use your effing head. So starts off, what do you wish you knew before your divorce? Yo, Jack Ten of Hearts comes in, divorce guy here. And the guy said that he was worried he was going to have to pay $1,100 a month in alimony for 8 years. He goes, okay, so look, I Googled some stuff from the Illinois divorce law, and this makes no sense. Illinois standardized alimony calculations in January 2015, and here's the example I saw. Assuming the soon-to-be ex-husband grosses $50,000 a year and the wife earns $30,000, therefore the husband in this case only owes his wife $2,000 per year under this form. For example, for a marriage that lasted 5 years, the maintenance award would continue for 20% of that span, or 1 year. And there's a link to it, which it's not really important. You can look it up yourself if you want. If you're in Illinois and going through a divorce, you should probably already know this, so whatever. But that's the point here, right? You see this, everybody assumes the sky is falling, but if you start reading the manual, you'd be amazed what you can find out. Anyways, back to this. Note that this example is not an apples to apples example to yours, but I have no idea where you got $1,100 a month for 8 years for alimony. It seems like it would be more like $250 a month for 2.5 years. And yeah, there's child support, except for, in the same link I provided, they noted that the law makes the following changes in addition to the formula. It specifies that judges must subtract maintenance payments from the payer's income for the purposes of calculating child support. So whatever you pay in alimony, you'll have to pay her proportionally less in child support anyway. Who the fuck knows, though? I'm not a lawyer. I'm just some asshole that spent 30 seconds reading a web page that came up when I Googled Illinois divorce law alimony. And I'm just copy and pasting this shit saying, take a breath, calm the fuck down. Financially, your divorce will probably be an enema, not an ass rape. It'll be ugly. It'll be uncomfortable. It'll be unpleasant, something you wish you didn't have to go through. and something you could get over as quickly as possible, but it's unlikely to financially ruin you or scar you permanently, and afterwards you'll feel a lot lighter and a lot happier. Like, it's just money, dude. You seem financially responsible, and it sounds like you've really grinded at your professional life to get where you are. You should absolutely get the best financial and custodial outcome for yourself. But I'm just saying, this will be a pretty annoying process if you're probably alternatively seized with anxiety or resentment. So take a deep breath, remain calm, talk to your lawyer, and remember, it's just fucking money, dude. So the guy, again, it's a very common question a lot of people ask in these divorce ones. So if I can get 50-50 custody of the kids, shouldn't that reduce the child support I owe her? He goes, yeah. If you have a shared parenting plan that shows you can supervise or have arrangements for supervision, daycare, your parents, whatever, for your kids half the time, you'll probably get it. It's not the 1970s, and judges don't give a shit about vaginas. Men typically get less custody on average because A, they can't actually make arrangements to supervise their kids for half the time. B, they don't actually want that much custody. You know, my son lives with me when he's off from school in the summer, lives with his mom during the school year. C, they're a beta loser who let their ex-wives guilt trip them into a bullshit separation agreement. And D, they've disputed their separation agreement all the way to a court hearing, but the guy did not get appropriate legal counsel and the judge ruled on his wife's proposed agreement by default. Seriously, you will not get fucked if you do not let yourself get fucked. Remember that. Again, he's quoting the guy here. He's like, I'm shooting to come up with a plan and then do mediation and have our own lawyers double check the arrangement. Wife and I still have a decent relationship and she thinks like she's going to work with me. Now, I get what you're trying to do. Avoid you and your wife hiring lawyers that will encourage you to endlessly litigate your assets to zero. But based on a general negotiation theory, this is not a good idea. Submitting something for mediation means you're going to have to pre-compromise. Submitting something with compromises you've anticipated but may not be required. So you'll be negotiating against yourself first and then negotiating in mediation. My ex-wife and I retained our own lawyers, which cost more in the short run but actually resulted in a cleaner agreement, in my opinion. You'll see her proposal and she'll see yours and you both go, yeah, no way. And then you'll start horse trading. Shit like who gets to declare the kids as a tax deduction, for example. So another quote from the guy is like, maybe I can trade her the marital assets to avoid alimony. Now that's something you seem eager to do. She, in turn, may be eager for that trade. You also seem eager to reduce your reoccurring payments. So in other words, you could offer that, the equity in your house or whatever, in return for something that reduces your long-term reoccurring outlays. If you go to mediation, this negotiation may not happen. You may have stupidly pre-compromised that you split the equity in the house, and since that sounds cosmetically fair, any more creative negotiation opportunities are lost. Now, negotiations aren't necessarily zero-sum. For example, if I have a $20 Starbucks gift card and I hate coffee, and you have $15 in cash and we trade, who wins? We both did, right? I valued cash, you valued coffee. You're both coming up with your own separation agreement proposals that will bring these opportunities to the forefront because it will make you both think long and hard about what you actually want versus what you're okay letting go. So if you communicate with your lawyers in an organized and consistent manner, then you won't end up with huge legal bills. And seriously, there's not really much money at stake that any lawyer is going to try and psychologically manipulate you just to drive up your legal bills. They will just want a streamlined experience as much as you do so they can focus their billable hours on the rich fuckers. The guy ends his post with just like a simple, like, give me your thoughts. I feel super outgunned and I fear I'm about to get, divorced, raped, and then shackled. Again, I'm not a lawyer. This is not legal advice, but this is the most moderate opinion you're going to get in any red pill subreddit about divorce, which means log the fuck off of Reddit, get off the internet, and focus on getting the best legal and personal outcome for yourself. And a bunch of hysterical red pillars whining about the US legal system favoring women or some bullshit is not helping. Remember, you will not get fucked if you do not let yourself get fucked. If you only want a 30-second enema instead of a 10-year ass raping in prison, then that's entirely within your control, so get off Reddit, don't get fucked, and best of luck. So this is back to me now. This is crude, this is old, this is like 10 years ago. We've actually come a long way since then, but he's not wrong. So it turns out the MRAs, I'm sure you guys have seen it, men's rights advocates. There's like the Honey Badgers, there's Karen Strawn, there's Paul Elam. There's a whole bunch of them around. And it's funny because they kind of got their start with people like Herb Goldberg and what was her name? Esther Villar, which were, they bought into the feminism thing. Like, oh, feminism, that's great. How come, where's my equality? And then they got kind of lost in the jumble. And so they tended to act just like feminists. Got invaded by women. A lot of guys left that movement, started MGTOW, guys going their own way, which turns out it wasn't, I'm leaving marriage forever. It was men's rights advocates who left to go their own way because they were tired of women taking over their movement. So you can see how well it went already. Didn't go so hot. But from a legal perspective, yeah, it's a really good example why men and women are not the same, and you really do need to understand. Like I talk about this in my book Frame, Praxeology Volume 2, where your emotional pillar is built on you understanding the nature of the difference between men and women, understanding your human failings, understanding your wife's human failings, and making more realistic decisions that aren't bet on some utopian fantasy of the way people should act. So in this case, and as a great idea he talked about here was, instead of pre-negotiation through mediation, it might be worth to get a lawyer up in advance and really focus on what you want. I'll give you an example before we end this one off. One of the guys was doing a divorce. I can't remember how long ago it was. It was forever. But the idea was the wife really wanted custody. So what he ended up doing is he was looking at, okay, so what does custody mean for her? And his was simple. They both live in the same neighborhood now. And he was going, you get him 5 days a week. You know, the school day, have them all during the school day. I just want them on the weekends. And the wife was fine with that. And she treated it. And then he used that, since she liked it, as his negotiation thing to, and he gave her some equity out of the house, like the equity of the house. He went and rented his own place, but got off the hook with child support payments, that sort of thing, other than the important things. Either way, it looked like she was winning. She got custody of the kids like 80-90% of the time. But the way he saw it was a win. He goes, yeah, the kids wake up in the morning, they get breakfast, they go to school, they come back from school, they have to do homework. You essentially get them for 2 hours a day. Meanwhile, I get them for holidays and weekends and all that just parenting time. 24/7, 365. I actually got more out of it. And yeah, she got the equity of the house, but now I don't have any payments. My cash flow is great. I can afford to do great things with the kids and have fun. It's a win-win scenario. Now, the other thing we found out about this one, again, separate divorce, military guy. He wanted to leave his wife and he was doing the same custody thing. I should maybe start fighting this in court, blah, blah, blah. And for me, it was just, I flat out told him, I'm like, look, well, you're in the military. There is a official policy that as long as you're employable, you're deployable. No judge in his right mind is going to give you custody so long as you have a chance of being deployed at a moment's notice, even if the chance is slim. So he goes, you have to make your decision. Like, what's more important to you? At the time, he was a lieutenant commander, so 2.5 bars. It's a pretty big deal. One more half bar, you get to run your own ship, right? And I'm like, you get to pick. If you leave your military career, get a civilian job, you can absolutely do this, which he could. And he's like, you know what? I've been doing this for like 22 years. I've earned my spot. I kind of want to keep it. It's like, great. So now you know custody is off the table for you, but your wife doesn't know that. So you can use that as a negotiation. And he did that. He's like, look, I'm not going to fight you on custody. You get it all. I get, the kids can visit me whenever they want to, that sort of thing. No alienation. And she had a good job herself. She was a doctor. So we got out of like any payments whatsoever. She basically got the kids and to walk away and took the house. Win-win. So this is one of those things, as a guy, it's really hard to impart on them, is that because like everybody's fear-mongering. The men's rights advocates are talking about how you're just going to get screwed over in court. And don't get me wrong, there is some legitimate grievances out there, but they are known. They are known, and so that they are known, you know how to avoid them. A lot of it is just not making decisions that the court will see and carry on through. I'll end on this. Very easy example. Child support, right? If, while you're separated, the wife has the kids, you leave the house, and you just go live your life, and then you fight with the courts for custody, the courts are going to look at that and go, okay, well, you decided to help pay for the kids and then give the wife custody. We're going to carry that over. So if you want custody of your kids, the best way to get that is to have custody with your kids. Have an arrangement before you even go to court where you're managing the kids halfway through the time. You're the contact for emergencies at the hospital or at the school. You're actually doing the parenting stuff. So when it comes to the court, it's much easier for them to say, well, this plan you already have now is working. Let's just carry over with what it is. But the problem with that is guys have to be deliberate and they can't be gaslit by their women. So take that for what it's worth. I know this is a very, very surface level dive into this, which is it should be. I don't think you really want an in-depth legal analysis on the effing MidsWatch, but just keep that in mind and realize, like, if it's over, and this is good for two, any guys just running dread in their relationships at all, when it ends, or if it ends, it's not the end of the world. You just got to plan for it and plan for what you want. So enjoy yourselves. I'll catch you on the next episode. Cheers. 1 second, guys. I found this. If I don't name these things right away, it causes hours of work and I forget everything. What's the date today? April 17th. There she is. All right. So we are on. Don't mind me. 27. All right. I'll check chat in just 2 seconds. Got to pay the bills, you know? This is like one of the weirdest live streams, by the way. Most of the time, the live streams are all crowd service, but me, I'm kind of like just working and you guys are there. You know, I'll chat with you occasionally. Oh, there we go. I see it. Okay, what are we going with here? It's good to see all you guys. Oh, it's a busy squad. Chill videos, great vibe. I'm glad you like it. This is pretty raw. I haven't done any of the editing and stuff yet, but you guys have seen a MidsWatch. You know what's incoming. Human Society, $5 super chat. Thank you very much, sir. You are the goofiest dude in this space. And by the way, when are you going to tell us who hurt Clary? Everybody hurt. Who hasn't hurt Clary? Thank you for calling me goofy, though. I appreciate it. Mish, I heard rumors you were banned from Twitter. Sucks to see, man. Let me see here. Oh, yeah. Okay, the next one. Sucks to see, brother. Well, it's not even a MidsWatch yet. We're just recording these live. Because, look, I have to say this now because there is always a stupid idiot in the... Like, no offense to whoever it is. Who's always in the chat going, haven't I seen this one before? And it's like, yeah, I'm recording these things live. So you're seeing it live, and then when it's edited, you're going to see the edited version. So if you're a big fan and watch everything, you're going to see it twice. The difference is one's got some production value, the other one's just raw footage. You've been warned. By the way, I leave this up for a little bit, but then I take it off and I take it down to the Patreon. So guys in the Patreon will have full access to these till the end of time. But the rest of you get them for like a week or something like that. Anyways, the next one, where's my notes again? All right. Oh, yeah. Don't red pill your friends. Oh, this is going to be good. I like this one. I know you guys have heard this before. I keep telling you. Stop trying to proselytize. Don't red pill your friends. Well, there's a reason we say that, and it's because of this goofball right here. Welcome. It's MidsWatch. It's Ryan. Hope you're enjoying your vibe. Got your tea, got your coffee, got your whatever it is you're drinking. Beer, wine. I don't even know. But so this one's, it's more of a meta one. Like a lot of these ones are geared towards guys with specific issues in their specific relationships. But this one is more one of the moderators. It calls himself the Blue Pill Professor. He was, and if you don't know the name, that's fine. He was the one who originally wrote the book on dread. And I kind of found it, well, I found it insufficient. And you're going to kind of see why. It was like a big covert contract in that. Anyways, he's going to talk about how he likes the idea of bending the rules of Fight Club, and he likes trolling in the MGTOW, pickup artist, men's rights, and dead bedrooms as the idea of like a cheerleader or recruitment drive for the red pill. And then it's kind of into like why we think that's a bad idea. And I love this one because this was like 8 years ago, but it has definitely come to fruition. Remember that question you always ask, like, oh, do you ever want the red pill to go mainstream? And Rolo is like, oh, I hope not. And I'm like, yeah, no. Well, this is what it was like before then. We worried about what would happen now. And it absolutely did. And it's actually kind of funny. So I'll start with it. I'll start with the post. and then we'll get into Jack Ten of Hearts, and then I'll end it off with my thoughts on it. So yesterday I was listening to Turd Flinging Monkey. He's a well-known MGTOW warrior and podcaster. Jeez. For those not in the know, taking the red pill can result in several outcomes. Some guys swear off women forever when they're confronted with their true nature. These are MGTOWs who only claim the title of true red pill guys. God, this is going to be a struggle to read, man. This whole thing is just ridiculous. So Monkey was talking about the men who discover the red pill after they're married. He suggested a new term for those guys because they can't be MGTOW. Somebody wants to describe those guys in derogatory terms like big towels, but he suggests the term awakened while married, or AWM. Isn't this just like typical for like sexless MGTOW guys, where there's like a situation and they're more worried about how to classify it in their little autism dictionary? It's just ridiculous. Anyways, I had to comment and link the married red pill because a lot of married guys were commenting there is no place for red-pilled married guys to discuss married red pill issues. And this bothers me because our success rate is so ridiculously high, we need more married men to awaken. Further, we can fix the problem of underexposure. So for those brave souls, I think it might be beneficial. Go quasi or allied red pill sites and spread the word. I would not advocate for marriage in any red pill site, but certainly advocate for the official position. Which, and I guess this is as close as the married red pill gets to an official position, but we are not in favor of getting married, but we are very much in favor of staying married because it's possible you can use your red pill idea, knowledge, mental models, whatever, to have the life that you and your wife would want. Not worth the risk for a man to get married, but it is worth a try to improve your life if you had the chance of avoiding divorce. And Vaginomy? God, he's trying. The problem I have with this is he's trying way too hard to be the popular guy in the most unattractive club ever. And that's what gets me. It's like, I like it better when we just like leave our pretense at the door. But I mean, I'm getting ahead of myself. So he goes, this is my suggestion. You guys need to go to Stardust, Sandman, Red Pill Philosophy, and a bunch of the other guys. Go see Roosh's Return of Kings. Go to the Red Pill subreddit. Go to the Dead Bedroom subreddit. And behave the rules and a whole bunch of other plans like this. And he's like, if you go there, you're an ambassador and act accordingly. So, and Jack and I are mostly going to see eye to eye on this one, but this is Jack's 2 cents. He's like, look, the reason I invest so much time in my comments to the guys here, because it's one of the few places that demands you strip all pretense at the door and come in with your unvarnished and exposed ego. Have you ever tried giving anybody in real life advice on anything? It's annoying as shit. Someone saying, can I ask you for advice is usually them asking, can you validate how I already feel about something? Or worse, they take your advice and blame you. Remember that other guy? And this is actually something from you guys. Remember Alpha as Wolf? This is it's an older MidsWatch, the one where the guy went from his wife was about to give him a blowjob to accusing him of assault and then yelling at all of us. It's a couple episodes back. Those who remember. Anyways, that's exactly what he did. Outside of the married red pill, though, he's not the exception. That guy's the norm. I think this place is great because I don't need to do any of the Socratic method bullshit. I'm happy to advise my friends because they're my friends and they add value to my life in other ways, but fuck, it's goddamn annoying to have to constantly advise somebody by tricking them into pretending your ideas are actually theirs, which is sort of what the whole cognitive behavioral therapy discipline is about. Married Red Pill is one of the few places that exists out there where we're all able to say, here's where you're fucking up. Here's some tools on how to solve it. And any outcomes are your responsibility. And actually have somebody fucking listen and not cry if it doesn't work. For example, they took everything you said hyper literally, or they listened to a guy who was obviously out of his mind. Now, the reason for this, I'd theorize, is the organic way married men stumble into this place. Starts out with a lonely and depressed guy saying, why is my wife so hateful, or why won't she screw me into Google? And after various clicks across the web, he ends up at the red pill and then eventually the married red pill. And so I'm more than happy to drop 4,000 words of advice on some schmuck whose wife isn't fucking him, because he's going to be a hell of a lot more receptive than most people. And any outcome, actually, you know what, before we get there, it's funny too, because this week's Substack, which by the time this actually comes out, it's going to be a lot later. But anyways, there's a Substack that I just released on my site where I talk about this, where it's it'll make a believer out of you. And it shows, like, this is one of the earliest examples I found where most guys do find the red pill in the same way. But, put a pin in that, we'll come back to it. Back to Jack. Any outcome of a recruiting drive is going to change that. Our current and former military service members can correct me if this is a bad analogy, but I see it as the difference between an enlisted volunteer versus a conscript. One way or another, the volunteers came here of their own agency, so they're more likely to be open to the ideas discussed. Red knighting all over the place may bring us a bunch of conscripts who may be fucking annoying, and we should call them out, but they do have a somewhat valid excuse to reply, the fuck is your problem? What's all this shit that I have to do reading and I'm a loser for not doing so? You told me to come post here. So if you want to grow the subreddit here, I would encourage more non-Reddit content like, oh man, this one actually, all right, I keep stepping out of the voice into this one, but yeah, you should talk about the Hunter Alpha and his brand, or Family Alpha, Zach Small, his brand. This did not age well. Again, story, different time, whatever. If you came to me as one of my marketing clients, this is what I would advise. I would say you have a strong community here, and aggressively growing that community is an option, but not without significant risk to diluting that community. The best way to increase growth is develop more external channels outside of Reddit under the control of existing community members with a consistent theme and message. If you have a political message, say like Fox News, then this is this is the same as launching the Fox Business Network, which is CNBC, but we like Republicans even more. And then it's easy enough to engage in that audience with the canonical Fox News fare like Bill O'Reilly and Hannity, etc. That's way more effective than trying to air Fox News commercials on other TV networks, right? Now, I'm not saying we should never participate in other subreddits. I know one of our guys, his name's Fear Dog, by the way, for one, hangs around dead bedrooms and throws out some good wisdom every now and again, but there's sort of an art to doing that. You need to kind of stick your toe in the water and gradually introduce your ideas and code it in their language, and then other people go, I kind of like what this guy has to say. I wonder if he has anything else. And then they see your posts here, and then they follow the yellow brick road. Socratic method, right? But if you want to do this, go do this. It takes time, it takes work, and you're probably going to have to legitimately want to participate in that community for fun anyway, and not just for the sole sake of red knighting. Now, this isn't true of every community. I'm sure Coca-Cola doesn't give two shits about the quality of their community or their Facebook page and would just urge me to figure out how to fucking spam like buttons. But I think that's true here. And I absolutely do understand the desire for a moderator who want to grow a community. But I think this red knighting thing is going to give you a much different psychological makeup than the guys who currently find this place organically. And that may not be a good thing. So, and he's like, I just realized I left out a good point for why organic, homogenous growth is so important. This place is what could be canonically described as a counterculture community. I mean, if you want to talk about stoicism, I hope everybody here realizes that this subreddit is literally designed to be ripped apart at some point in the future. Hopefully not for a long time, years later, but we will eventually fragment between countercultural members who want to be more countercultural out of principle, and counterculture members who want to be less countercultural in order to be more palatable. So if you want a good example of how this already happened, consider that the pickup artist has, broadly speaking, had a branch that's done the same thing. One side is what I would call the Mark Manson branch, and the other side is the Roosh branch. Mark Manson is much more accepted in mainstream society and can operate freely and push his agenda without problems. Roosh would say that agenda is watered down and he's the real deal and fuck compromising on how you message that agenda and blah, blah, blah. Of course, he's also banned from traveling to a bunch of countries, so maybe, Mark is more successful and doesn't really give a shit anyway. Hell, you're already seeing this split again with Roosh and the Red Pill. Roosh actually started this goofy thing called neo-masculinity, which is essentially Red Pill except for no gays allowed, if you're curious. So, I mean, this will happen to this place. It's up to the mods, but it's really all of us, whether it happens in 6 months or 6 years, and whether it happens when we have 10,000 subscribers or 100,000. And I'd argue that red knighting all over the internet probably just ensures the former is more likely to happen. Second edit. I love this one too, because there's so much to go on. I find this stuff fascinating, and it's really good to know. If you ever want to do your own online branding, this stuff is really valuable information. So that's why I'm kind of nerding out about it. You're like, why do I care about this? Trust me, they'll get to a point. Just let me get through this. Anyway, so if your goal is for your counterculture to become the culture, then I would only point to the difference between second and third wave feminism. Second wave feminism had canonical thought leaders, Gloria Steinem, Andrew Dworkin, etc., and essentially pushed their agenda as a gradual, homogenous, cohesive group. Third wave feminism is literally a bunch of whiny millennials on Tumblr whining about shit, and they cannot even agree on what shit to whine about. Third wave feminists see Ashley Graham in the Sports Illustrated swimsuit edition, and half of them think this is moving in the right direction, and half of them think this is selling out because women being appreciated for their physical holes is conventional, patriarchal, blah blah blah, and must be eradicated. And all this does is get the occasional college administrator fired, but it does little to actually impact social change. And the real reason that Ashley Graham is on the Sports Illustrated swimsuit edition has nothing to do with feminism at all, really. Except for that, some asshole like me figured out that putting a thicker girl would get a ton of free PR buzz from those feminists screaming at each other and extend the profitable lifespan of a product that is quickly going from a cash cow to a cash sink. Oh my god, that aged well. Anyway, seriously, for all the hand-wringing about left-wing cultural indoctrination and shit, you only need to look at how any left-wing group basically starts and folds every 6 months. Another great example, Occupy Wall Street. Started about arguing shit like the drums 5 minutes into starting. No unified thought leader, no gradual and homogenous growth, just a bunch of millennials yelling at buildings for a couple days before they started yelling at each other. Meanwhile, we have about a 40% chance of, this one didn't age, Marco Rubio being president because the own Occupy Wall Street idiots are now beaming for Bernie. Which is all good until he loses to Hillary Clinton anyway, and those burners end up split between supporting Clinton versus abstaining from the political process, since Clinton's a Wall Street dude. Alright, anyways, I'll skip, this is all like politics stuff, but it's just kind of funny. Yeah, it did happen. Bernie dropped out. They gave it to Hillary Clinton, but it wasn't Marco Rubio, it was actually Trump that took over. That's how old this stuff is. And but he did get it right. He got the name wrong, but he's like, and that's enough to ensure that, Trump gets president, which will almost certainly push an agenda that this is the opposite of what those Occupy Wall Street Bernie supporters would have actually wanted. Good work, guys. So I would predict the blue pill subreddit would eventually split between those that think the red pill is an inherently evil ideology, and anybody who would even buy into it is a misogynistic asshole beyond redemption anyway, versus those who think it's worth considering why it appeals to certain young men, whether it's worth attacking the young men, rather than, Roosh himself. You know why I'm predicting this? Because that's already happening too. These groups wouldn't be able to get their shit together. And I say all of this because I know some guys here, like the Blue Pill Professor, are heavily on the sociological, feminized decay of our society and see the married red pill as some bulwark on it. But man, like a lot of things in life, there's no game here you need to win. And you definitely don't need to win it with more subreddit members. You just need to wait and let all your opponents lose the game for themselves. Now that I've gotten all of that preamble out of the way, here's my thoughts. It's funny. A lot of the people won't even know who these people. What's a Roosh? What's Mark Manson? And it's funny because this keeps happening. This happened again. The split absolutely happened. Hunter Drew was trying to make his whole socially appealing traditional conservatism one. Meanwhile, I was like, I'd rather just stick to the message and to hell with if it's palatable or not. Same thing, Rollo's side. He wanted to talk about the nuts and bolts. Then you get Myron, Fresh and Fit, Tate, and Pearl, where they try to make it mainstream appeal, but of course they did it the stupidest way possible. And it really is the same thing you see. So it's almost not even like some leftist conspiracy or some left-right thing. It just seems to be human nature that you'll automatically get a schism when something grows big enough and you have enough regression to the mean of people who want to maintain a hipster attitude towards something versus people who want to make it social. They want to be invited to the cool kid club. And you're seeing that right now. Pearl absolutely desperate to get mainstream approval. I could give two shits about it. Tate absolutely wants mainstream approval. Myron absolutely wants it. Rollo could give two shits about it. And this is what you got to think about. It's more than just don't try to red pill your friends, because that comes in here too. Obviously, you try to red pill your friends and they tend to get mad at you. What'll happen is if he makes up with his wife and goes back to being a supplicative asshole, yeah, but just so you know, my friend tried to get me to act like these red pill guys, and then now he and his wife don't invite you over to their house anymore, so no good deed goes unpunished. Don't help your friends there. And if you're thinking of some broad culture war, it's ridiculous. No culture war lasts. Every time there's a side, it goes to infighting almost immediately. So all you got to do is just sit here, do your thing, carry on, don't create waves for yourself, stick to what you're doing, stick to your job, stick to working on your marriage, stick to all that stuff, and let everybody else punch themselves out, because everybody will lose. nobody's able to win because everybody is stupid and everybody is ego invested and everybody is so desperate for affection and attention and to win and to be in charge of Fuck Mountain that they always screw themselves up. So if you just sit here, do your thing, you will come out ahead just from attrition. And I'm a living example of that. Zach Small was having like a big like temper tantrum about us there. And what did he do? He ended up blowing up his thing. He had to go back to his day job. Anthony Johnson tried to make a big mainstream push, blew up at his thing. Nobody even knows who he is anymore, other than a goofy meme I put on my podcast as a commercial. Myron and them, went big. They went hard. They got demonetized. They blew themselves up. Now they're fighting over knocking up a prostitute. Pearl's gone from like great to horrible. I can keep track. Tate's going to jail. Pat Stedman, he was like, we're better than Red Pill. We're going to be mainstream approval. He's in jail right now for attacking the Capitol. Coach Red Pill decided he was better than it too, doing his thing, and now he's dead. So it's like, and I get it. That's like, it's branding. I don't really care. But the same thing for your life. Your friends around you, your family, your coworkers, they're all going to have horrible marriages. They're mostly like that guy we talked about, Alpha as well. They just let life happen to them. They make instinctive decisions and they screw their life up and they don't care. That's the part you have to accept, is that they don't care that they're screwing up their life. They just want to be told it's not their fault and everything they're doing is okay. Like a child looking for a father to pat them on the head and put a finger painting on their fridge. So when you come in there thinking, I can make a difference, I'm going to give you, here, read this Rational Male, read this book, here's some things you do. And you tell your wife, and all you're doing is just making your life unnecessarily difficult. And if you really want to invest in that, the Socratic principle is basically asking a guy questions until he comes to the right conclusions and assumes that it was his ideas and not yours. If you're willing to invest that much time in a guy, you have to accept the covert contract that it's entirely possible that you will lead him to water and he won't drink. Now, if you're willing to spend all that investment on somebody and get nothing out of it, including to watch him succeed, and you're okay with that, fill your boots. But for most of us, just live your life. Live your life, let them burn. I don't know how many times we're going to say that, but I've got like hundreds of these examples. I just like this one because it was pretty predictive. The Occupy Wall Street guys did start infighting. It did cost the Democrats the election in 2015. Roosh and Mark Manson and all these guys keep doing fights and things keep splitting up, and it's just funny. And this is why, if you guys ever wonder, like, how did you know that was going to happen? It's because it's happened 4 times before. And now that you're here, you've seen it happen once, you've heard about it happening another time. You're going to be that guy 5 years from now that sees some brand new, flash in the pan, and you're going to be able to predict his career start to finish. And it's just going to be amazing. Everybody's going to wonder, how did you know? You're just going to laugh and go, because of some idiot named Ryan. All right, back to you guys. Where'd I leave off? I see Siege D, $2 super chat. Ryan, are you still cool with Glenn Lawrence? Why would you ask me that? That's a weird question. Yeah, that's a weird question. I see Squishy with some T-Rexes. Oh, dude, T-Rexes in the chat. By the way, we've got some great images for memes right now. We're going to have a lot of fun with it. We're going to have a lot of fun. So, I don't know. See, I know this one. I enjoy it, but I'm worried because it's very meta. So it's not helpful married-wise, red pill-wise at all. But this is the stuff I like because, like, just from, for example, there's a subreddit called Theory of Reddit, right? And one guy who has made this site called Tumblr, or subreddit called Tumblr in Action, he was noting kind of how humans organize around in social media. He had a lot of like a really good breakdown of it. And that has been paying dividends for years when it comes to like building a YouTube channel, running a Twitter account, a Patreon, all this stuff. Same thing as the time in here. It just turns that when it comes to a social media branding, like that stuff's experience. And you start to see how people generally act. And it actually was all of his advice he gave in like, Jack Ten of Hearts loved Hunter Drew, which sucks because it really didn't age well at all. But a lot of his advice to him was the stuff I kind of took to heart. It's like you try not to be the canonical red pill guy because, who the fuck is this guy? There's no authority. It's some decentralized thing. So you make it your thing. That's why it's like the Praxeology Volume 1, it's Praxeology Volume 2. And for the most part, my books are free of jargon because then you can become an authority because you've taken all this stuff and you've wrapped it around your branding, which is extremely useful because then you avoid all that stupid infighting crap. But I mean, Twitter, you can only do so much. Santiago, so no Minecraft stream today. If I'm finished this in time, I'm still gonna pull one of those. Don't worry, because I got to record some footage. I gotta edit a video for tomorrow or Friday, and I don't know yet what I'm gonna do for the topic. I haven't even done a script. But don't worry, Santi. I just finished a bunch of stuff anyway, so it should be good. Stripper, look what I stumbled upon. I know, right? Nah, Rolo would appreciate it by not compromising his principles. Yeah, I think that's what I said. Lead by example, not by... You're not leading anything. I think that's the point, is that nobody wants to be led. Everybody wants to be told that they're the hero. That's it. My push-ups in the shower speech was awesome, though, in that convention that shall not be named. Oh, yeah. That actually was like, I think, a year or two after this. It's crazy. It's crazy how long ago shit seems to be. Anyway. It's just funny how this ended off because, like, it didn't go well. The professor was, like, the whole time he was just LARPing. But he had tenure, so nobody really called him on it. But after we all kind of got our shit together, it was pretty obvious. Really got annoying. Oh, I'm not looking forward to this next one, though. This next one's long as shit. Like, it's pages and pages. And I really tried to, like... Ugh. You know what? Fuck it. What are we on? 3. I want you to be vulnerable and what your shared feelings actually mean. I guess we can cut to the core of it. Yes, we'll do this one. We'll skip this, do the agency talk. Then we'll finish it off. Hopefully I don't speak too fast on this one. Yeah, so a Jack 10 response. Oh, this is worse. The guy himself. Like, the whole thing. Probably about 10,000 words. It could be like a 30-minute video. But whatever. Have you guys ever wondered what a girl actually means when they say, I want you to be more vulnerable around me? You're about to learn. MidsWatch, Ryan, you guys know the deal. We're coming up to the end. This guy, random dude, all men, wife admits she uses the sex drive to control him after months of issues, but I think it's a good sign. And he apologizes for the long read. By the way, don't do that. If you're doing a field report and it's going to be for like a semi-public consumption, if you thought it was important enough to write it down, stand by it. If you feel the need to apologize for long writing, make it succinct. So I'm going to skip a lot of this stuff. So if it sounds a little disjointed when I read it back, it's because I have to go through and skip, because there's a lot of parts that just really don't matter. And then after this, I'm going to bring up our prolific Jack 10 of Hearts and his little breakdown, and then my thoughts at the end of it. And it's welcome to the Red Pill. 8 years ago. So the last couple years for this guy have been rough. Police were involved in some bullshit cybercrime issue, lasted a year and a half. Wife's family having 2 divorces, father slowly dying. So we had fights and a power struggle about feelings. She wanted him to show more emotion about the events happening in their lives. She managed to pull me in one day to our bedroom and asked me and said it was okay to be vulnerable. One time, and this one time I let my feelings be heard and it was bad. Oh, it was so bad. I felt like shit. And she looked confused and bewildered during the process. And a few days later, I spoke to her about it honestly. I told her it made me feel worse. Crying made me feel worse, babe. And I didn't really think like it made her feel any better either. And I could tell. Then he asked her, like, how did you feel about this? He was surprised. Her honest answer was, bro, I don't like to see men cry, and it bothers me more than I'd like to admit. Even though I asked you to be that way, it made me not like you afterwards. I had let her pull me into my frame, let her convince me that it was fine to show feelings, but in the end, we both understood it was somehow wrong. And that was the middle of last year. Sex was diminishing, fighting was increasing, we talked less and less and less. He has a lot of like dronery here. I'll skip to the important part. She fucking snapped. To this day, I remember I pulled back in revulsion. Moment that why I'm here. I just went back, ate a hash brownie my sister-in-law gave me, which I never do, enjoyed a trip, and felt real high and left. I took a 2-hour drive in the snow, walked about the lake and on the road. I just didn't give a fuck. I drank and I ate, had a good time. Had some Christmas Day stuff with the kids, opened some presents, watched some movies, blah, blah, blah. Then when I got home after that 4-day vacation, I found this. Here I am. This is what I've done. Spoke to her about counseling. I was honest, not emotional, and stated that the more she went, the more unhappy she was becoming. She said the counselor was just dredging up her past as a reason why she was like where she was, and convinced her to stop going. But instead, I got her reading more books on self-improvement rather than a stranger telling her what to think. With the books, at least she'll talk to me about them, and we can hash out what works and doesn't as adults. 2. I decided I can still swim, lift, and wear a knee brace in class. I've gone to lose that 15 pounds I gained last year, and I'm already looking better. 3. I've refocused on years past and how I just don't give a fuck. That means I started to stop fighting and letting her draw me into her frame. I became more honest about what I wanted. Sure, she turned me down for sex or shit test me, and I've failed a lot of times, but now I just tend to let this shit run off my back. No butt hurt. Just okay, dear, and go spend my time doing something I like. If I lose frame, I have a talk with myself and learn what I can do better, and it happens slowly. And then finally, I just do my work at home. Romance her for shits and giggles randomly, and working on the humor and pushing her buttons aspect of it. If you guys notice, this is all fairly like basic, bare bones, assertiveness, nice guy behavior, stuff that you see in No More Mr. Nice Guy and When I Know I Feel Guilty. And it just goes to show you that, like, if you stick to the basics, 90% of your problems can be solved. So back to the topic. Sorry for the novel. It's Valentine's Day. I've been tracking her cycle, and she was ovulating that day. We ended up doing it about 3 times the weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Normally it's once a week. Wednesday comes, I send her a cute little hump day camel pic. On Tuesday, tell her I've taken the day off to clean the gutters in the house and the rental place and do some yard work. She comes home late from boot camp, and we go to lunch. We come back, I make the moves, but I get shot down. She asks what my problem is, saying that wasn't 3 times on the weekend enough. I told her it's not the amount of times, it's when the mood hits and the time is right. Like the middle of the day when 2 of us are alone with no kids and no one hurrying to get back to work. She was miffed and angry. I wanted to sex her up. She told me I looked hurt. I told her I was not hurt. But this was as an adult. I could feel disappointed without being hurt. The next night, chilling with a beer and a glass of wine, watching Cramp TV, and I said, about yesterday, I'm not sure what's wrong. Maybe it's in my head, or it's just about us. You just do what you want to do. This is the wife saying this, by the way. I can't control you. You don't care about authority or what your friends do. You just do what you want without asking. I'll ask if I can go out, even if I know the answer is yes. You just tell me you're going out and then do it. Yesterday, you thought we were going to have sex when I decided we weren't. I think the reason we don't have as much sex is because I feel like it's the only thing I can control. And I just looked at her with a cute smile and said nothing. I didn't agree, didn't disagree, didn't try to fix it. Poked her and she smiled back, felt good. Better. Felt like freedom. Do I need to fix her shit? No. Can she change to fix me? No. So there you have it. Jack chimes in at this point. Dude, can you not read between the lines here? He brought up the point at the end where she's like, you just do whatever you want to without it, she feels you can do whatever you want, unencumbered by anxiety or whatever the fuck she's hamstering about. So she feels she's dealing with her worries, her fears, her concerns, all the emotional stuff. She's an emotional island. She's going through some bad shit, and in your head, it feels like you just can't, or she feels like you just can't empathize. So she thinks, maybe, if she can convince you to open up, maybe she'll feel better. Probably thinking you've been repressing your emotions, so it'll be good for you too. But then you do it, and I bet what happened here is you spewed a bunch of shit you were anxious about, which was different than the shit she was anxious about, and then she started getting anxious about your shit too. She also resented you for being anxious about different shit, because that actually made her feel even more alone on her island of anxiety, her hamster in a maze. Maybe you spewed anxiety about the cybercrime thing. Maybe you're worried you'll be charged, you don't know the maximum sentence, and blah, blah, blah. So there's a way to handle this. Just realize the vast majority of the time your wife is asking her husband to open up, it's a comfort test for her. She feels emotionally alone. She wants reassurance that you're feeling the same feeling about whatever it is that's making her anxious or sad. Let me use an example. Say you have a sales job, pays salary and commission. The execs announce the sales commissions will be cut by 20%. And say the boss has actually no commission, but he says this, wow, really fucking you guys over. I can't believe they don't realize this. Half of you guys are going to be out the door in a week, and the other half are going to freak out trying to figure out how to buy Christmas gifts for your family. This is bullshit. I'm going to go do something about this. Now, this boss, despite this new reduced commission policy having zero impact on him, just echoed exactly what everybody else felt. They felt fucked over. They're anxious about the impact on their families. They're entertaining thoughts of getting a new job. But your boss seems to recognize that. So, maybe they'll ride things out, see if he can do something about it. He probably can, but you also know if you do interview somewhere else and you ask for references, you can give them your current boss, which is superior reference to your last employer from 4 years ago. So it's just not an emotional blanket. It can actually make you feel more likely to succeed at whatever actions you take in the future. Now, rewind this. Let's play out scenario 2. Same thing, and your boss is an idiot who says, I know this is a cut. I wish I had better news. Well, fuck that emotionless asshole and the clueless executives don't know what the fuck they're doing. So it's time to work on your resume. So, wind again. Scenario 3. Say your boss does express his own feelings about this. Oh, this is bad. What if you guys quit for a better job? Then I'll have a smaller sales team. Plus, my team will be smaller than this guy, and they'll promote him instead of me. I'm worried about this. I think it's very possible your reaction to your wife was scenario 3. So yeah, you can shut the fuck up in situations like this, but that's not what your wife wants in a comfort test. She wants to hear shit like, vulnerable. Who wouldn't feel vulnerable? Marriages are ending, lives are ending. Can't help but think about yourself and the loved ones. Whatever it is specifically that she's feeling anxiety about. Get it? And at the risk of some usual hubris, I'm like 98% sure that your wife would have melted in your arms if you actually said that. I bet she wouldn't have noticed, just like I bet a lot of you didn't notice right now that you didn't actually confess any feeling. Every sentence was spoken in the second person. You. You aren't confessing your vulnerability at all. You're packaging her vulnerability into a compact and simple package. And you're saying, look, do I think I could turn this mess of thoughts in your mind into a simple package like this if I didn't have an idea what you were going through? And you know what? Maybe she doesn't buy it all wholesale. Maybe, she wants things to conclude, though, and you sound calm and reassuringly like who does? Who wants anything to end? So this is a really advanced version of fogging, which is a tool you may have learned had you been following along in the channel. No More Mr. Nice Guy, When I Say No I Feel Guilty, that sort of thing. Fogging. But you're essentially summarizing her feelings or using rhetorical questions to parse out what those feelings are. So back to you and me. I'm going to skip. There is an entire section that's just as long as all that stuff I've already read. It's not as important. I'll skip to the end where you get to like main part of the message. Just take it from there. So he is talking about what she needs. There. Is your wife the oldest teenager in the room? Some women fit the archetype well, but others don't. I know this contradicts the canonical red pill wisdom, but recognize the demographic they're discussing are mostly younger women who are literally teenagers only a few years before. Some women never mature from this stage, especially if they're neurotic. Your wife will comfort test you when she wants comfort. She will shit test you when she wants you to give a shit. The way she will do this, and her most effective response to pull into your frame, may actually vary from marriage to marriage. So shut the fuck up is just as a placeholder, and it's more so about understanding the emotional maturity of your wife and then dealing with this. You know what they say, like they just want a man who gets it? Yeah. So carrying on, he goes some back and forth, and the guy ends up talking to his wife, coming back a couple days later, and he goes, yeah, it turns out it was the family's divorce and the dad dying. That was the stuff she was anxious about. So okay. And then she was worried because now she gets to be free and do whatever she wants too. The same problem she had with the husband. So she learns the problem isn't about the divorce so much, but it's that envy for a divorced sister. And you ended up responding with some compliment that was infantilizing at best, condescending at worst, and that's when she snapped. So next part speaks about the counseling. You remember the part earlier about the counseling? And every time she went there, she felt more depressed about it, and he convinced her not to go. Jack's like, that's a common problem in individual therapy. The therapist thinks they're playing fucking Clue and consider it a winning condition that they announce your fucked up mental state is Colonel Anxious, who had a motive because of bad formative experiences. Like, way to go, Sherlock. Really nailed that one. But how do you arrest Colonel Anxious and put him in jail so he's not terrorizing people? Good therapists should help you figure out the problem is with your interpersonal relationships. You got to do some things. You got to change some actions. But the bad ones end up just trying to solve the mystery and then give you and dump all that anxiety in your lap, which is exactly the mirror of what you were doing to her by not fogging. So now to the main part of it, where the wife admits she was using sex to exert her own measure of control in the relationship. Jack's like, dude, Your wife is responsible for her own emotions and the fucked up mental models that drive those. But if her fucked up mental models mean that she irrationally rejects sex because she wants some misguided need for control, well, she is overtly announcing, I don't want to enter your frame because I've decided it's better to lash out with self destructive actions instead. I know it makes no sense, but that's what I'm going to do. A lot of women think this way, but it's impossible to do much about it because they don't even realize that they think this way. You just act happier and happier. She just gets pissed and pissed and pissed, mostly because she wishes she could just operate with a healthy and constructive mind like you do. But she's jealous and resentful she can't, and it's easier to try to bring you down instead of figuring out her shit. And this will keep happening until you get to an epic shit test known as the main event. Talked about that before in Praxeology Volume 1 and 2. Just know it's like the mother of all comfort tests. And she's going to realize how stupid her self-destructive behavior is and her thinking to herself and you. And it's all hurting you, so she just comes to you on your terms. Now here's the thing. Your wife is being very overt with this thinking, which means, at least in my opinion, you don't need a main event, which is good, because the whole sequence of events that lead up to the catharsis doesn't always happen. There was our 65-year-old guy I guess he's in his 70s now. But if his first wife would have smoothly escalated to a main event and then calmed the fuck down, he wouldn't have been divorced. But so your wife's going to go down this path, and maybe she'll figure out it's a bad path and join your frame, or maybe she's too fucked up in the head to do that. You can't control it. So can you influence that? Sure. Are you saying you've never influenced everybody in life before? Come on. So your wife isn't even conscious of it. There's not much you can do with any of the influence, but your wife is conscious of it, which is good. Your wife is admitting, in plain overt language, that she acts like a bitch because she's anxious that she cannot control shit. She's acknowledging it very well could be about that. And that's why I've written such a long thing on it. All right, the rest is just some ego fluffing here, so we'll skip past it to my thought. This is actually what it was one of the quintessential examples we had used to get to the three types of dysfunctional captains, the guys that find themselves needing dread in a marriage. This is the type 2 captain. The captain with the constantly complaining passenger. The captain's neurotic, likes to fix the wife. The wife lashes out. Huge amounts of anxiety in that. And then the husband's walking on eggshells with her at all times. And that's when you get situations like this. And that's why, again, you cannot think I can save the marriage, because people are really stuck in their trains of thought. So right now, for better or worse, mostly worse, this wife believes the sex life is the only place I have control. So it's the only place I'm going to exert any authority, which leads to a dead bedroom, because that's the only time when she's not feeling anxious. Feels like shit, but she doesn't feel anxious. Then she sees the husband working on himself, improving himself, going through dread. He's having a great time. He's doing better, but she's too stubborn to follow along, because that would require her admitting she was wrong. And this is where main events come from. Eventually, just like they snap and they're like, all right, I got nothing else. I don't know what to do to keep you around. Big. And this is why you have to have snot bubbles, or it's not a main event. Because it's literally somebody, it's almost like a girl having her own version of a zeroing out moment. If you guys don't know what that is, that's where a guy has something that shatters his worldview, like a divorce and the church turned on him, stuff like that. And it essentially is like a neurotic a snapping of your ego. Snap. It's almost like a fight or flight response. Anyways, it's kind of like a lot of this stuff is predicated on the stuff. You see the terms I'm all over the map. Bear with me. Let's cut back to center here. But now that you see these kind of things happening, I think the big takeaway is just understanding the depth of a statement like a girl wants a guy who just gets it, what that means. In this case, for you, it doesn't matter if you have a neurotic wife who's lashing out with these really crappy mental models she does. It doesn't matter if she's narcissistic parents that have trained her to be something that you don't like. All that matters is when you start hearing I need you to be more vulnerable, I want you to open up in front of me. She doesn't want to hear shit about you. She wants you to let her know that she's not feeling shit in isolation. So just ask some probing questions. She's more than happy to run her mouth about the stuff bothering you and repeat it back to her in simple language. If you can do that, you can pass the comfort test. Now, for most of you guys, you may not have to worry about that yet, because comfort tests come when a woman is worried about losing you. So if you have an issue with attraction, sexual desire, she finds you unattractive, or heaven forbid you're single and you can't get a girl, you're never going to get a comfort test. You're never going to get it. But once you're at the point where you're like, dude, I could replace her with a 25-year-old tomorrow. When there's a girl at the Christmas party that's like can't keep her hands off you and your wife's sitting there having a mate guard and she starts having those freak out moments, you're going to start getting comfort tests. And the problem is most guys nowadays are autistic and they're so busy thinking about their power fantasy about how they can be the man, the alpha male and shit like that they forget about these very basic human skills that can really help out if you, heaven forbid, want to keep your woman around, mother of your children, the wife and whatever, girlfriend, doesn't even matter. A lot of times, all you have to do is whatever the girl is crying and hamstering about, just reflect back on it. It's like, I hear you. I understand. You don't understand me. Oh yeah? Bam, 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 bam. I understand. And it calms them down. But like everything, you don't have to. That's the part I'll leave it on here, is that when you're receiving a comfort test like this, there's always that little moment you have to, in your head, you have to go, does she deserve it? Because if she is otherwise trying her best, being a good wife, being a good girlfriend, being a good mother, stuff like that, and you're happy, and you get these comfort requests for comfort test, yeah, passing them, it's great. Now you're getting what you want, she gets what she wants, she gets emotional stability, you get sexual fulfillment, you guys raise a family, and everybody's happy. But if she's just an outright bitch all the time, and then she still comes at you for comfort test, you're more than welcome to nuke it, to be like this guy. Well, maybe better than this guy. Maybe don't cry in front of your wife too, but you know what I mean? Just be like, oh, that sucks, man, and move on. So you can establish, like, yeah, if you want comfort, that's a value that I bring to a relationship. But if I'm not getting what I want, I'm not in the mindset to actually give that out. Cuddles aren't free. That's the key to it. Did any of that make sense? All right. Oh, these super long Jack ones, they drive me nuts. What the hell? Did I not name that one right? Oh. One sec, that's M26. M25. Yeah. There we go. Who's here in chat? What'd I miss? Oh, there we go. One article couch. Thanks, Skunk. $5 super chat. Heartfelt fuck you. I write shit, but I can't justify spending the time to write a book. Most people can't. That's why I think book writing is one of like the very few places that's an untapped wealth of value for content creators. Because you actually have to work. You can't just sit here and run your mouth into a microphone for 2 hours every week. I think this might be later in the original dude got fucked up when this one high on a trip family vacation. Yeah, that was the one. That's the same guy. It's funny you remember that too. But yeah, all those details was just like he said, she said story stuff, and this thing was going so long. I'm like, I'm not going to waste your guys' time reading a half an hour of that. Because the key point of it, as long as it's like the validation seeking stuff anyway. Anybody have a good primer in developing discipline? Well, there's no primer to it. Here's the deal with that. Discipline, you prioritize things. If there's something you're supposed to do, you go do it. If you have to, here, I'll use a great example. Military. You have a parade in the morning. You have to wear your uniform. It's got to be ready. It's got to look good. So here's what you do. It's a Friday night and you want to go out drinking. You have a parade on Saturday morning. Well, you iron your uniform, you get ready your things, you polish your boots, you get everything ready, you put it by the door, you hang it right there. So all you do when you walk out the door is you grab it and go and you're gone. Then you can go out and have as much fun and party as much as you want. Set your alarm across the room so you don't get up and sit it on snooze. So you wake up in the morning, you stand up, you walk towards the door, you see your uniform there, you grab it, you walk to work. Bam, everything's done. That's discipline. Discipline is just a bit of ability to plan for the future based on your priorities. That's it. There's no system. I mean, I guess there is a system, but the system's largely individual. So hopefully that helps. So yeah, all those times you were like, yeah, I could be working on this right now, but I'd rather jerk off to porn. All you have to do is just put the porn down and finish that thing you're supposed to be working on. That's it. I might skip the narcissism one because it's... Yeah, it's some... Yeah, it's not really useful. So we'll skip that. Do I want to shit on the professor again? Madonna whore. You know what? It's short. Why not? So this one's going to be The professor is talking about, was this the one? Yeah, prostitute game. And I think it's a good example because like some of the stuff we get here is ugly and doesn't work, but it only comes up after like people experience things and come up with their own ideas. But there's always like there's a bunch of wild shit that comes in like this. Anyway. Yeah, fuck it. We'll do this one live. So it's funny. I always talk about the red pill being this great thing, great mental models and that. But here's the thing. I leave out a lot of the stuff that sucked and really wasn't good. And it was just the author fluffing himself. MidsWatch, Ryan. This one, again, this is like the third post I've had basically dunking on the blue pill professor, but not my fault. He's the one that made garbage posts. So this is the one, friend dread, how my buddy's impending divorce improved my marriage. And it's simple format. I'm going to go through his field report. I'm going to go over the Jack thing. Then I'll follow it up with my thoughts on there. And hopefully you guys will learn a little bit of something. The lessons on this one. When you're running Dread, it's not about revenge fantasies. And you may have heard me before talk about how, depending on your frame, the same action can have wildly different consequences. And this is like a good example of that. Plus, it's got some, I'll warn you right now, if you got a big, strong value system of being good and nice in that, you're not going to like any of this. So, you've been warned. So a post that is part lesson, part encouragement for the guys, and part revenge porn. This is a follow-up to my red pill post on prostitute game, where I described the effect on visiting a prostitute on the wife's sexual desire. Hint, screws him 3 ways from Sunday, the next day, and for weeks afterwards. We can only conclude that somehow women could smell fresh on your dick. Or as the great Patrice O'Neill puts it, you want to catch a fish, you got to smell like fish. I gotta pause here. Because nobody's gonna wait for 10 minutes to hear that this is stupid. It's stupid. Look, this is the same as like a early MidsWatch where we talk about cheating. Cheating provides an increase in the anxiety of your relationship without the increase on sexual market value that goes along with it. And ladies of the night are the same thing. Yes, you can go pay your however much it costs and go get dealt with, and I'm not here to judge. I don't care if you want to do that. But don't do that with the covert contract of, if I sleep with this girl, then my wife will be more attracted to me. At best, she'll be very neurotic about it, and you'll get a little bit of hysteric bonding at first. That'll last a couple weeks, and you may think you've solved everything. But all it does is kick the can down the road. As much as I want to say, yeah, it can solve your immediate problem, but it's not sustainable. You don't address any of your problems on the thing. But hey, again, you've been warned. So in this post, some friend's getting divorced. His wife couldn't stop listening to The Whisperers, which is actually a Dalrock article, which I might skim through at the end of this thing here, and trotted off to his own apartment in order to take another... sakes. Sorry, it's mostly just full of like, yeah, the cock carousel, her yacht-owning billionaire with his 9-inch cock and shit, like, bunch of bravado. So he tries to talk sense into his soon-to-be ex-wife. Her family tried, her friends tried, everybody tried. He sent letters professing his love and fidelity. Blah, 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 blah. Anyways, it's all ridiculous. So the wife was moving on. Everybody filled her head with nonsense about, even though she's 35 with 3 kids, she's going to walk out and be just as good as when she was 23. A lot of marriages end up going this route, where the girl's got her head filled with something, and that's where The Whispers is. This is actually an old Dalrock post, which I've pulled up. And so we're doing like a recursive thing here. Dalrock, The Whispers. Women are hardwired to wonder if they aren't missing out on something. Do they find a better man? Do they have enough money? Do they have the right clothes and shoes? Are they being treated well by their husbands and their job? I think this fits neat within the concept of hypergamy, and it serves a biological purpose. But constantly wondering if what you have isn't enough isn't always a virtue. In the wrong context, which is modern life, it's a prescription for unhappiness. Not just their unhappiness, but for everybody. A sane culture would curb the dangerous parts of this tendency. It would caution women the danger of being never happy. Kind of the Brothers Grimm, the tale of the fisherman's wife does. But then again, we don't live in a sane culture, we live in a feminist culture. Feminism's founding motto is, I never get to have any fun. Instead of curbing the worst instincts of women, the culture amplifies them. Here's an experiment you can try on your own. Ask a 5-year-old, Why did all of your friends get ice cream today and you didn't? Or why are all their toys better than yours? Find a bunch of toys they don't have, which look like they'd be really great to play with, then ask them why their parents don't love them enough to buy it for them. For best results, taunt them every day. Wake them up in the middle of the night, ask why their classmates get to sleep in a more comfortable bed than they do. At keeping up with the Joneses stuff, you get it. Now, do this for 30 years and test to see if they're happy. Of course, they have every reason to be unhappy. Their entire life has been filled with a gaslighting to show that they should have better, they're missing out, and everybody else is having more fun than them. So our culture is like this, always whispering in women's ears that they deserve better and mercilessly amplifying every potential doubt. We saw this with how Stella got her groove back, Eat, Pray, Love, hundreds of things out there. My wife's witnessed this throughout her life. From her devout Catholic maid of honor, who's still unmarried at 37, when helping my wife put on her wedding dress 1 hour before the wedding, prompting her to throw her out of the room. The wife's friend was like, "What if you meet a better man in 2 weeks?" Now, from the girls in the 7th grade class she taught, asking the only other girl with a boyfriend why she hadn't spent more than $50 for her on her birthday, saved all the money on her birthday money to do so. Why didn't he spend $100 on her if he really cared? The girl took the bait and was upset until my wife took her aside and talked it through. The Whispering is Endless by Men and Women. All right, yeah, more blah, 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 blah. So I'll skip the rest of that. The point is, women are always being whispered at for other women. There's better out there. What happens if this? What happens if this? It's a bunch of neuroticism. It's a bunch of nonsense. Some girls fall for it, and then they think they have that fear of missing out. And this is where you get the cougar phenomenon. Girls thinking, now I'm 42. I can leave my man, and I'm going to have a great time out there. Guys find it's great. You could be in your 40s and get girls in your 20s still. That's fun. Girls in their 40s have a lot harder time, and they end up getting really bitter, and they start voting Democrat. You know the deal. So back to the professor's thing here. Oh, the reason I have to pause in these ones and they sound a little disjointed is because I'm skipping past a lot of him, like full of bravado about pussy juice and all this stuff, and I'm just like, it's not really helpful. And I would hate if there's like a clip of me somewhere in the future that's just sitting here talking about it. Like, would you explain yourself? I'm like, no. So anyways, buddy, prostitute, wife, older, thinks she's got something better. 3 months later, she's living alone in a single bedroom apartment. She comes over several times a day. She told his friend just yesterday that she would come back to him if he would do X, Y, and Z. And the husband laughed in her face. He couldn't stop laughing. She divorced me, and now she's given me condition to come back? Like, whatever. But the part that kind of got him is that he was sleeping with a prostitute just before then. And then his ex-wife came over and slept with him right there. He didn't even have a chance to clean off. And he was kind of like, he thought it was weird. Which, I'm not even going to bother breaking that down. It's not too important. A lot of married guys have this, by the way. You'd be surprised how many guys end up having, they plate their ex-wives. It's so common. I actually put it into Praxeology Volume 2 as one of the outcomes of dread. I'm skipping a lot of his other stuff because it's so much bravado. It's just really that bad. But that was it. And then he tries to segue into dread game. So the gist of his post was, women are constantly being whispered into their ear about a fear of missing out. Here's an example of a family friend of mine whose wife thought she could do better, left, and ended up being miserable. He ended up sleeping with a lot of girls, left a prostitute. Ex-wife came over, started sleeping with him. He's like, I wonder if it's because she could smell the other girl on me, or maybe she's just lonely. Does it really matter? Doesn't really matter. There's some concepts here, but this isn't really helpful. But the reason I bring this whole thing up, and like, what does this have to do with the red pill? It's because in the next part here with Jack. Just get over your Madonna whore complex already, Professor. Thinking poorly about sexually promiscuous women makes no sense. Mostly because you end up bifurcating women into sluts and good girls. And this is why so many guys end up in sexless marriages. We met a good girl and thought she didn't put out early and that gave her some sort of virtue. But often it indicates a sex-negative attitude of a woman conditioned that her sexuality needs to be rationed and is only deserving of a man's attention, which makes her the exact kind of woman that weaponizes sex as sexually restrained and unadventurous and will only enjoy sex when she would otherwise feel anxiety to not have sex. So if you don't particularly enjoy sex with women you don't like very much, then don't have sex with them. But you keep commenting about this and it comes across as a stupid amount of projection to me. It's like the post-coital thoughts you have are this. Why did you just let a man you didn't like that much have sex with you? What kind of whore does that? Now I think even less of you. But I suspect you'd even be more annoyed of these women that just gave you a peck on the cheek and said, thanks, but it's too soon for me to go back to your place. We just met. You'd think, great. I just spent 2 hours listening to some basic bitch talk about basic bitch shit, and now I'm not even going to get laid. This is a waste of time. Even worse, and I'm sure this is pretty far from your mind now, but worth considering, you meet a fun, interesting woman you could see yourself enjoying some longer-term companionship with, so you won't ask her back to your place because that seduction stuff's only for those whores you meet online. But really, you're worried that you'll think less of her if she actually goes for it. And you like her enough that you don't want to think less of her. But that locks you into this passive, beta male, supplicative approach, puts you in a friend zone. Enjoy those dates hiking and going to the museum, but do not be surprised when she said she's just not feeling it and there's no chemistry. The common thread here is that not sex, it's you spending time with basic bitches. So maybe do that less, and you won't need to worry too much about developing a taste for hate fucking. So my thoughts at the end of this one, yeah, it was one of those things you kind of saw a lot of the professor's posts coming in. It's the Madonna horror complex. Like, guys do this all the time. Like, yes, I get it. Some women just have that fear of missing out. They're whispered into it. Absolutely. As a guy, you're just nonplussed by it. You can absolutely replace a girl. Absolutely. And so when that's done, you have a certain confidence about it. Like, dude, nobody is that stupid to leave me thinking they can do better. And the idea is you have to believe it. You've done the work in your own corner so that you believe it. Like, it's not even a pumping yourself up. You're like, of course. It's taken as a matter of fact, like gravity. At the same time, you have to devote a lot of your time to realizing that women are just women. And a lot of those things that you do involved you having a sex negative attitude towards other people, especially your wife. If you ever think, no, I don't want to try to sleep with her on the first date because she's special and I don't want to treat her like a whore. And then you wonder why on the second date she doesn't want to see you anymore. It's because there's no sexual chemistry there. Treated her like a best friend. And then she treated you like a best friend. And now you're friend zone and curious about what happens. A lot of guys do this in their marriage. So I hope the whole professor's thing about prostitute game and the girl and this and the whispers, it doesn't make sense to you, and it shouldn't because it's ridiculous. And I guess the lesson out of here is just to ignore the common wisdom about it. And even if you're all red-pilled and you know what you're doing, as soon as you hear a guy doing Madonna horror complex stuff, projecting their anger about sexuality onto women and hyper-focusing on the whammon ain't shit aspect of it when they're past the anger phase, just realize it means they're probably not very helpful, probably projecting. Let's get your shit together. It's amazing how less concerned you are about abandonment from your women if you know you can replace her. Abundance, you know? I mean, it's not my most favorite episode. I don't know, that one's a weird one. Sounds like a control freak. The whole thing. Anyways, where are we at here? Still here? Of course I'm still here. By the way, I've seen women do this more than once. They even do it when they're single. They'll convince a girl in the group to bring a dude that they want, but are not sure and try to steal them later. Oh yeah, girls are horrible. There's a solipsism thing. If I had the inclination to want to break down women, I could totally talk about it, but I'm like, who really cares? Girls just don't know what they want, and when another girl has it, they're like, oh, I want that now. I guess the easy answer for that is because this girl's sleeping with him. Well, that means he's like a good man, so I can take him too. That's all it is. It's just pre-selection. All right, let's clear the old throat. Let's continue on. Call that one 24. Oh yeah, the personal epiphany about betas. This is actually a good one. I liked it. All right, we'll keep it simple. Yes, there's going to be Minecraft. If I finish this in time, I'll probably still do a Minecraft stream today, but I don't know. I've still got another 5 of these, so it might not. Them shades are pimp, dog. Well, thank you very much, Nick. Did you just learn all that? Did you just take an Ebonics writing course? Did you just learn all these terms? Use your redneck language. Start talking about the Dukes of Hazzard. That I'll believe. Anyways. Personal epiphany about betas. What the hey? My favorite part is all this rigmarole about alpha males. You can tell as soon as the guy starts talking about it, he has no idea how to talk with real people. It's a nice short MidsWatch, guys. Welcome. You know the channel, you know it, you love it, blah, blah, blah. This one's really simple. A guy kind of gets his shit together, has a personal epiphany about beta males, and then a little setting of him straight by our prolific poster Jack Ten of Hearts, followed up by a couple of my thoughts. So the guy, new holiday place recently, guy living across the road, super friendly. The first time we arrived, we're unloading our furniture. He was there introducing himself and his dog, and his wife didn't come over. He asked if I needed tools or anything. He's like, I'm good, thanks. He eventually scuttled off. They were there for a week, and he bumped into the guy like every day. Yeah, hey, we should go to coffee. Local scenic place. I'm thinking, what the fuck, man? I gotta go to the beach with the kids, not to dump all my family for some bro time with this guy I don't even know. So every time we're at the house, he pops out of nowhere, and as we arrive, and he comes over for a hello chat. I ask my wife what she thought. She thinks he's just being friendly, and I say it's creepy, like he wants to fuck me or wife swap or something. Does he want to fuck my wife? Who knows? The guys next door on the other side are different, though. They keep to themselves. I've smiled and waved once, and the other set are friendly across the street, and we have chance encounters. The beta male guy's family I've spoken to like 4 or 5 times, but I like him. Holds a good conversation and gave me some great advice on something. That was great, and it just struck me on the weekend then. This creepy guy? He's probably how like an orbiter looks to a woman with a degree. A guy who's like friend zone and that. Maybe women just get so used to the nice guy thing. Take what you can get as an entitlement for gracing them with your friendship. Overtly sucking up to creep me out even far less, and their agenda's like obvious, man. And I get it. This is like what's wrong with the nice guy stuff. So Jack cuts through all the pretense, and he's like, dude, you don't have any friends, do you? Because if you did, you'd recognize that men aren't women. We organize ourselves into hierarchical structures, not orbital ones, which means you can have a beta male friend and still get some value out of it and vice versa, especially if you're a homeowner and the potential friend in question is a neighbor. Generally, somebody with the socioeconomic status to own a home is competent at something. A beta bucks guy just means his wife's not fucking him. But the fact that he's 40 pounds overweight and still wears members-only jackets or has a haircut from 1988 is not really relevant to his relationship with you. His unattractive appearance and tryhard personality would reflect poorly on you if you were going to party in Vegas. But he's asking you for coffee, not Vegas. Maybe he's a criminal defense lawyer. So unlike your other lawyer friends who mostly toil in corporate stuff, this guy knows some real-life law and can help you get out of your next speeding ticket. What does he want in return? For you to get some coffee with him at the local scene once in a while, which I'm sure he raved about. Make some comment like, wow, this is a great view. We should get lunch with our family sometime. The fact that a new acquaintance is giving him validation will be such a brilliant spike of dopamine in his mind, he'll probably do any favor you ever want of him in the future. Maybe you don't need any favors from him. Maybe he has a boring job in an obscure STEM field with zero applicability in the real world. But maybe he's lived in your neighborhood a while, and he knows people that he could ask for favors. He knows you're going to eventually need a plumber or a handyman, so instead of rolling the dice with Yelp, you just ask him, do you know a good plumber? And what's great about these thirsty guys in life is they're 100% incapable of lying. They're just like Ned Flanders. So I get it. This sounds a little dark triad for the comments I usually leave, but this advice could uncharitably be described as, yes, he's probably a lame loser, but he might still be useful, so pretend to be his friend so he can do you any favors. But I'm trying to explain, in the plainest way possible, why this whole line of thinking is retarded. Your way of thinking about him as like an orbiter creeps you out because you're too freaked out by the idea that you're a high-status male. It is an unfamiliar feeling. You've never been a cool guy. Nobody treats you as cool. And when they do, you flash back to some Carrie moment in your formative years where the cool guys were just doing it to pretend and then dump pig's blood all over your prom dress. The idea that you have status in society is so fucking foreign to you that your mind just freaks out. You could literally be interpreting this as self-loathing. Do you realize this? Like, why does this guy think I'm cool? I'm a loser. If he's acting nice to me, he must be even a bigger loser. You're also way too socially retarded to just trust your judgment of people's incentives and too passive to reject covert contracts. So somebody kissing your ass is probably doing it for a reason. No free lunch. But if someone offers you lunch and then asks you to pay afterwards, there's several situations where you can just say no. And when you do that, they'll be annoyed and they'll be frustrated. They will probably react at least somewhat negatively, and if you're struggling with issues of codependency like most of the guys here, it probably just doesn't apply to your wife. The idea of anybody thinking poorly about you just kills you, and it makes you feel embarrassed and anxious and upset. But you hate paying for lunch you didn't really want, and only ate it because he offered it. So now you can't even eat a fucking sample at Costco because you're worried there's a covert contract that enjoying the spicy pickle sample means you now got to buy that $36 pickle set. You don't have to do anything. But if you don't buy that jar, the random guy at the samples might frown a bit, and in your mind, you'll freak out about a piece of shit you are and how dare somebody else make you feel bad. But you know what? Fuck the Costco guy if he's got a covert contract. To be honest, very few people we deal with are on a strict sales or commission basis anyway. The Costco guy doesn't care. He just frowned because you said, that pickle's pretty good, and then declined to buy the jars. And disappointment is a natural reaction to feel when somebody likes your product but declines to buy it. But that disappointment's not your problem. So that's why you freak out. And that's why you freak out why guys at clothing stores ask if they can help you when you walk in, because their agenda is not obvious. Why is he so helpful? Does he get a commission? But the prices are on the shirts. It's not like he can overcharge me. But maybe he's going to say I look good in some shirts just to convince me to buy it. What do I do anyway? So then you just say no and whatever. And that's when you grunt, no, I'm good, I'm just looking, and charge past him with an awkward power walk, since that's clearly way too much cognitive load for your poor little socially incompetent mind. Then you find some shirts you like, but they don't have your size. Maybe you can ask him, but yeah. Cutting all this stuff aside, Jack actually took like 20,000 words to say all of this. I'm going to skip all of his nonsense, because this should be way shorter than it is, and just cut to the chase. There is this thing where you join the red pill, find the married red pill. You probably don't have a lot of status in society, or maybe you do and you forgot how, or you've never really thought about it. And then you kind of work on yourself. You get your six-pack abs, you get your girl, you get your wife, you start acting more confident, acting more assertive. You start to project status, especially when you meet new people. A lot of people are very insecure, they're fairly neurotic, they have their covert contracts, and they latch on to you. Men aren't women. We don't get orbiters. There's a guy who could be great at stuff. He could be a good friend, but his wife doesn't fuck him, and he's a bit of a schlub. But you're a high status guy, and just being around you is value for him. So you can't think of it like, oh, he's just an orbiter, he's just trying to get in my pants. It's just like he doesn't know what he wants, but the idea of making a friend seems really cool. So yeah, there's nothing wrong with you playing nice. Because hey, your neighbor likes you, and you tolerate your neighbor. Hey, could you watch the house for a minute? I have to leave, and I'm worried that somebody's going to try breaking in. Yeah, sure, friend. I can do that. Is that so bad? Is that so difficult? And the thing is, too, if he perceives you as higher status, the idea of doing a favor for you kind of makes him feel better. And on the flip side of this, the other thing you're going to see a lot is when guys finally build some status in their life, they finally start earning some money, they get the girl, they get the place, all that good stuff. They run into other higher status guys, and then they start posturing, start trying to fight. Like, oh, I'm better than this guy. And it's like, dude, look, like him or hate him, buddy of mine, Rich Cooper, millionaire guy, lives in a nice little neighborhood outside of Toronto, does his thing. And when he runs into another guy that's high status, do you think he's posturing, trying to see who's got the bigger dick between them? He's like, no. He's like, most guys are losers. And the fact that I met this guy that's not a loser, I would like to make a friend. I would like to go get a coffee with this guy. And that's just it. But if you're constantly in that scarcity mindset, it's always about where do I stand next to everybody else. And you always got to fight, always got to bicker. And it's just off-putting. If you were more socially adept, you'd realize, dude, this guy's pretty switched on. It's actually good to have a friend. Yeah, he may have 10 more bucks in the bank than you. He may have a slightly nicer car, but who fucking cares? And it's really hard to explain this stuff to people because most people are so busy inside their own heads with their own neuroticisms that they aren't thinking about the bigger picture. Like, there's a reason that the most attractive and successful people you've ever met are also the kindest people you've ever met. It's because they can afford to be. They have no reason to be negative to anybody. Jeff Bezos is probably the most fun guy to go grab a beer with. Elon Musk, probably the most fun guy you've ever had drinks with in your life. You know who's a really shitty person to grab drinks with? That guy that's like hustling to get every dollar together. He's on Twitter right now, and only thing he knows how to do is pick fights to hopefully get you to sign up to his goddamn newsletter. So, I guess this is one of those things where it's more so an example than a lesson, but there's something to be said for becoming more socially aware of the dynamics at play, especially how men and women work, because men and women are different, but men have been raised to be effective women for so long that we sometimes forget. Guys just naturally form into hierarchies. If you're the higher status one, the guy will naturally get under you, and then you guys end up working together. It's a great post on this from the Red Pill Room, where Ian Ironwood talks about how men can organize into the male social matrix and how women can get in the way of that. It's a good read. If I can remember, I will put that in the description of this video. But in the meantime, stop posturing, stop fighting with everybody, and stop thinking like a woman, thinking that every guy who's nice to you must want something from you, and he's probably an orbiter and he just wants to fuck you. Relax. You're not a woman. I don't think I'm allowed to assume anymore. M23. Jesus Christ, I forgot. Oh yeah, that was on my note. Don't read posts 3, 4, and 5. Fucking hell. Yeah, it was literally that. Just don't be a chode and like learn to play nice and be polite and have some sociability to it and grab a coffee with your neighbor, you fucking retard. But he had to turn it into this giant diatribe and like jocks versus things and oh Jesus Christ. All right, whatever. Girls will sacrifice other girls. Oh, I already read that one. I lived the whisper thing. Now my ex is a single mom of 4 in her 30s. Good luck with that. Well, see, that's the thing, Invincible. That's not your problem. You're still a good father to your kids. I'm assuming at least one of those 4 kids are yours. And you're dating a lot of younger girls, I'm hoping. So it's like your wife decided to give you a better life at the expense of her short-term happiness. It's like, can't change people, but hey, you gave her the great benefit of you for as long as she was willing to not fuck it up. And I hate to say it sounds so flippant, but it's like, what do you want from me? Like, you can't solve people. They have to solve themselves. What's the next one? Married, friends, main event. This one kind of work. What's my note on it? The best a woman can do when trying to fix the relationship is this. Type 1 captain. Oh! This one's kind of fun. All right, I'm going to keep pumping through these ones. My voice is doing well. Turns out the biggest trick, speak quieter. I'm still loud, just speak quieter. The best a woman can do when trying to fix her relationship is this. And I'll leave it to you to see which one's good. MidsWatch, Ryan, welcome guys. This guy, Iceman Wannabe, asks about married friends. Like, hi everybody, I have a quick question. We had the closest thing to a main event that we've ever had. I don't know if it is or not, but it was a bad one. I have a pressing question, I'll go into it later at length. The marriage has been in the dumps for ages. Sex is a distant memory I haven't been close to for longer than I'd like to think about. Anyways, at the end of our latest fight, she says something that left me doubtful of my course of action. Namely, that she envied people on fucking Facebook that always posted about being married to their best friend, and that she didn't feel that she had that. I couldn't help but blurt out, that was stupid. No idea if saying that was the best, and I reacted without thinking, and then she said, let's be friends, assume I'm on the market, but only you know it. I said, I don't want to be your friend. I'm not interested in being your girlfriend. I want a wife, I want a lover, and I want sex. She got mad and said it was stupid, that she should be friends and the sex would come later. That was implied. I was like, strictly by my limited proficiency in the red pill, the whole idea sounded like a supplicant behavior request of chore play and a very convenient arrangement for her. I have to be the father, provider, and all she has to do is give me friendship with the nebulous promise of earning sex. Desire can't be negotiated, all that. Is this a legitimate cry to be gamed and courted? Like, I'm new, I don't get it, help me out here, and don't pull punches. So Jack comes in. This is funny, actually, because this... So I'm going to little spoiler alert for some future episodes. Jack and I have a bit of a... We actually didn't like each other too much. And so this is like, I think the episode or 2 before we started having our own little spats on here, which are stupid, but they kind of have like an underlying lesson to them. So stay tuned. It's going to be a new MidsWatch. Jack says, though, I blew my word quota for the next couple of days, so this is going to be short. Being a father and provider doesn't get you any points. When you say this, you're saying the only value you bring to your marriage is raising your own offspring and bringing home a paycheck. Wow. No man's ever done that. A job and he raises his own kids? I have no idea how his wife's panties aren't drenched every time that direct deposit hits the bank. Snark aside, seriously, 0 points. You're just pissed because you've assumed your commitment to monogamy means a robust sex life that hasn't happened. If your weeks mainly consist of going to work, parenting, watching TV, and grumbling about weekend obligations, well, start there. You're boring. You weren't boring when you met your wife, if only for the novelty of meeting somebody new, but also because you probably went to do things, took hiking trips, and went to concerts and hung out with people. The older you got, typical commitments of career, home ownership, and children eat away at all that, and now you're just a grumpy husk of your former self who feels entitled to sex with his wife. But what about her effort, right? She's not the hot, fun thing you met all those years ago either. Why do you have to put in all the effort? You don't have to do it. Not for her. I would love for my wife to say, pretend I'm single, because I would have just paused and said, okay, in my head, you want me to think you're single, so we're not married. Let me think about that for a while. Let's go to bed. And then I would have jotted it down, a couple notes for my future, made a notebook, turned out the lights, passed out. Assumes she's single? Well, by that definition, got to assume I'm single too. Which is actually what your wife wants. She said, with the typical female solipsism, that's no stranger to the red pill, and it probably didn't occur to her that this will mean stepping up her game as well, but it will. Because now, you're going to figure out how to start putting those building blocks of your life you had back when you were single and desirable. It's not going to be one-to-one, but you cut out the boring TV time after your kids are in bed. Watch the TV shows you like with your wife, let her watch the ones you don't by herself. Do you normally watch bad TV shows you don't like with your friends? No. Your wife might start perceiving some distance. She might get whiny or annoying or anxious and then even say, this isn't what I meant, but see, part of your map should involve play. Playing sports, woodworking, playing happy hour with your buddies. Your wife is asking to be friends and assume you're single is her saying, remember when we used to play together. Because a life with some play and recreation makes it very easy to blur the lines of sexuality in the marriage between sex and intimacy, because what is sex if not play? She's tired of feeling like sex is some discrete, scheduled block of time she needs to commit, lest you start whining about the sex you're owed because of your paycheck. Framed it like that, maybe her suggestion doesn't sound so shitty. So, when she starts getting upset and anxious, maybe in a shit test, but it's probably just what I call a shitty comfort test, she wants to play with you, but you seem to be just playing on your own and she's jealous. You can snark about, how about those apples, bitch? Or you can tell her to meet you at 9 on Friday at the bar. Somebody's already babysitting the kids and you'll hang and you'll go play with her. Go to the gym after work, hit vanity muscles, blah, blah, blah. Anyways, he's describing just like a basic date after this, so I'm going to skip all that. Now it's phrased as a simple set of steps, but there's several assumptions here. If you don't have the financial or logistical means to afford to going out on a drink and arrange some babysitting, then no wonder your wife isn't fucking you. Your life isn't just boring, it's boring and stressful. It's very easy to turn money into improvement and play. You get the latter, and you don't need to whine about how your paycheck makes you entitled to anything because you're spending it on what you want. You're single, remember? And all this shit about Facebook, marrying your best friend, blah, blah, blah. It's only fucking annoying if you take it literally. Because any photo you see always has that couple in a tropical waterfall, or salsa dancing, or enjoying a fucking picnic, and it's all contrived, but all those things are at least playing. There's probably some early date with your wife back when she was your girlfriend where you went to go see a movie, but it was sold out, and so you had 3 hours to kill. So you drove to somewhere and did some random thing, and it was fun, blah, blah, blah. Then you watched a movie that weekend and had sex. But seriously, though, all of those Facebook posts, man, it's not about waterfalls and picnics, it's about playing. And whatever you want, she used to like playing with you. She can't imagine it's that hard for her not to like playing with you again. So, what he's getting at here is I've talked about in a previous episode, separating sex from intimacy, and that's kind of what we're getting at here. The idea, and you've heard it before, guys like Rolo saying you should always be gaming your wife, or that you're not gaming your wife, but you are the game. And those two concepts here, it's in a very, very rudimentary way what he's getting at. The idea is when you think of sex as a discrete activity, your wife will think about it like a chore. So the idea is you're always intimate. All the stuff you do when you want to get laid, just do that all the time. Have that as your constant on state. Smack your wife on the ass. Give her a kiss out of nowhere. Tease her mercilessly. Make her cry one day and then make her laugh the next. Buy her flowers and then yell at her for picking them up. Whatever. Push and pull. Have some fun with it. Enjoy fucking with her. Whatever. And then every now and again, mood strikes. Just follow through. And that's kind of what they're getting at here. And it was funny because I don't think it was the first post that got us there, but it was like one of them. And all the idea was just a wife saying, "Pretend you were single and let's pretend to be friends." Women don't know what they're doing. And this, like, the one example here that's funny is like that's how a woman processes the idea of separating sex and intimacy when you put it through their solipsistic filter. Absolutely horrid advice. Pretend like we're friends, pretend we're single, but nobody else knows. And the guy's like, I don't understand that. It makes no sense. But as a guy, separating sex from intimacy makes perfect sense. You know, be friendly and charming for other women, induce a little bit of jealousy, do a little bit of catch and release, have fun, play around with your wife, tease her a bunch, smack her on the ass, treat her like a piece of meat, take showers together. Sometimes you follow through and want to sleep together afterwards, sometimes you don't. Whatever. And it's once you internalize all these things as your regular way of being, it's not that you're gaming your wife. It's not that you're wasting all this time dating somebody you've been dating for 20 years. It's just that you're the charming, fun guy. When you go out, other girls are flirtatious with you. It makes your wife jealous. She's more inclined to want to keep you around with the only way she knows how to keep you loyal. Sometimes you play around with her and then you follow through on there. It's you literally become the game. And I wish I could explain it in a way that makes perfect sense to everybody. This is like one of our rudimentary attempts to get there. And it really has advanced since then. I'm kind of glad it's gotten to where it's gotten. And the one thing I actually am kind of weird about these MidsWatches is that when I describe a MidsWatch field report, it seems like, dude, I could fix this so much easier with the stuff I've put into Praxeology Volume 2 or some of the more recent stuff that we've had, like in our Patreon and that. But I'm like, no, I think it's better that we get to see it back when it was like the elementary school 101 level of stuff. It was always messy. There was no roadmap and people didn't know what they're doing. We had to figure it out as we went because I think a lot of guys forget that. It's not a paint by numbers book. It's literally a bunch of guys swapping notes because we have no idea what we're doing. And the best way to figure it out is to try everything and then write down the stuff that works and then try it again. All right. Oh, busy ones. All right. Know what you're doing. Brag at the other girls. Joe Rogan. Ross the Skunk again. $5.55 super chat. I like listening to your long form driving on a Sunday afternoon. It's like ASMR, but helpful. I'm glad, man. Because I'm not going to lie to you. Between watching the recordings, watching chat, reading the thing, looking through my notes, it always feels like it makes no sense and just sounds like babble in my head. So I really hope it's more coherent than I picture it doing. I'm trusting in my preparation here. As long as you guys get value from it, that's all good, though. It is funny, too, though, because there's a bunch of guys in here that are part of the Patreon. I don't want to out anybody or anything like that, but like I've been saying this stuff for years because it's like 8 years ago is when we first started learning it. And it's just interesting to see like, oh yeah, he was talking about that last year. Oh, he was talking about that 2 years ago. I think there's something about it. The fact that I've managed to stay on message for this entire time to make sure that it just makes it feel like we haven't really left too much and started talking about Trump and politics and Jesus and all the other nonsense right now. I hate Twitter for that. It's like that's where content creators go to turn into morons. But anyways, whatever. Oh, the one part I skipped on that one too is right at the end where Jack's like, I'm also wagering a bottle of Macallan 12 that Ryan will snark that was short, you verbal fuck. I was going to hint at that, but I'm like, whatever. Probably going to skip this one too. So like the start of the beef with him is I had this post I put on. There was 2 posts that kind of got it started. I might sum them up. First one was called Turn Off Your Brain. And it's the idea of analysis paralysis causing you problems. The problem is back then I was completely illiterate. I read this report. I'm like, how can anybody understand this? I only understand it because I wrote it. But it was just ridiculous. And it's just like all over the map. And then Jack chimes in with some sarcastic shit about you're basically being a hypocrite. You tell people to stop thinking, but you do an over amount of thinking yourself. Which, I mean, fair. Then there was Be Married Like It's Your Job. Oh, yeah, this one. Anyways, the second one that starts it is my plea for irrational confidence. Another post. I've gotten rid of them. Again, not literate at all. And Jack started chiming in with some shit. I'm probably not going to do those today, though. Yeah, so we'll go straight to Be married like it's your job. Which episode is that one? "13. Jesus. Da, 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 da. Oh, it's another one of those I gotta skip a bunch of shit. Actually, that's good. That actually makes this more. Oh, it's gonna be more Hunter shit too. God damn it. Alright, whatever. And skip part 2, part 3, agency about motherhood. Skip part 4. Alright. Let's do it. Look, you pivot to Canadian politics, I think you'll do well. That's the problem, man. Now that everybody hates Trudeau, everybody's doing that now, and it's just the most like, dude, Canadian political punditry is fucking retarded. Like, everybody's just calling Trudeau an asshole. That's the start and the stop of their content. Except for this one chick, calls herself the Celtic Nut, which is actually kind of interesting. And then everybody else just takes question and answer period. And it's like, look at this fucking retard. But there's not a lot of views because there's nobody in Canada. It's like a tenth of the size of the States. That's why every smart Canadian who's able to do any political puntry starts talking about the damn Republicans. All right. Anyways, let's get in position here. Center in the camera. Yeah, thanks for Crowder. Hey, there's like a bunch of those, by the way. There's like 8 of them. Most Canadian conservatives, or most Canadians end up being American conservatives. I don't know why. It's just a thing. Excuse me. Treat your marriage like it's a job. Yeah, okay. Another MidsWatch, another Ryan, another Jack 10 post, and another post from a guy 8 years ago. This one was a guy who kind of realized that he liked taking risks and treating things as well in his marriage or in his job, but he was trying to take that same approach to his marriage. I'm going to skip. There's a lot of details that really don't matter. We're going to cut to straight the meat of it on his post, then the Jack response, and then my thoughts at the end of it here. Yeah, I'll skip those to the end. So he's doing a lot of introspection. Most of this stuff is him thinking it through, doing a self-introspection. He's like, what do? Am I successful? Am I always busting my ass? Do I bring value? Do I know my value? Am I compensated? Am I willing to walk away for a better offer? And he realizes with his job, absolutely, on all fronts. On his marriage, no. And he breaks down, like, am I busting my ass? And he goes, yeah, I bust my ass at work and it works out well. I'm also busting my ass in my marriage for no reason and is doing nothing in the wife's dictating term. I bring indispensable value to both. He knows his value in the one, but in the marriage, he's having to learn. And a lot of his red pill thing is just learning what he actually brings to the marriage, because men and women are different. And the things that a guy brings to a marriage are the thing that women want. But the things that guys think are valuable in a marriage are the things that the guy would want. That's why we're always talking about loyalty and commitment. Girls don't give a shit about that. Not nearly the extent we do. What they give a shit about? Status. And we don't care about that. We'll fuck the barista. Compensation, he has a bit of a rant about that where he realizes, yeah, he's being taken for granted. And the big one is where he's willing to leave. So if his job stiffs him, he's out. If his wife stiffs him, he spends 5 years working on his married red pill male action plan. You get what I'm saying here? So his conclusion is, how could I possibly expect my marriage to be as successful as my career? I'm not doing any of the things required for success. I identify and correct the major discrepancies between my effort and awareness levels at work. And at home, it has made the satisfaction of my home approach the same as the experience I have at work. It's taken me 12 years to get there at work, so I don't expect this to work overnight in my marriage. Undefined problems are the hardest to solve, and the most defined are the easiest. So for me, the big issue is defining the critical parameters that apply to myself, the energy, skills, and attitude at my help. So he has some obvious questions. 1, why am I choosing to stay in my marriage instead of leaving? 2 reasons. 1, I feel responsible for the influence on my kids. B, even professionally, I've never left a job in the middle of the project. My personal code is to see things through. And this map is my project, and observing my wife's responses within scope. And then number 2, is my personality this intense both at work and at home? He's like, no, I have to work on that too. So Jack chimes in, and we've had like some back and forth with this guy, so there's going to be some backstory. when it's relevant, we'll bring it up in here. But it's like your wife's not indifferent. She's literally incompetent at being the sexually seductive feminine wife that you want. Seriously. Her mom is a highly functional, completely unfeminine woman. You say that your wife's friends are also unattractive, same description. At least part of the reason your wife became a STEM lady was that she wouldn't have surrounded herself with stylish and personable women who surely thought she was a boring frump. See, we don't just want wives who are enthusiastic about sex, we want them to want to be sexy. Several days in a row, I go to the gym and then work late in my home office. I don't want my wife to jump my bones as soon as I decide to come to bed. I mean, that's cool. But what I really want is for her to come to my office with a snack and a black tea, wearing lingerie and saying, "You look like you could use this. You want to take a break?" Like, that shit's sexy, man. I wish Zach Small or Hunter Alpha or Family Alpha or Hunter Drew talked about this more. Because he's sort of gestured in that direction and given plenty of examples of that in his own marriage. Too much of what we discuss on here ends up being too focused on the actual sex. And yeah, for a sex-starved marriage, getting your dick wet 3 times a week instead of 3 times a quarter is great, but you're probably going to want more at some point, and you won't want to just have sex with your wife that often. You want her to get sexy that often too. It's one of the few things that the red pill women understand. Also, they're literally incapable of deconstructing it, which I've always thought was hilarious. Being female, looking and acting feminine is attractive because it makes men feel like $1 million, and that's the only thing we give a shit about. Frenchie, who I've brought up before in a bunch of MidsWatches, made some comment in another thread about his wife totaling all of his cars. Do you know why he never gave a shit? And it's not because she fucked him a lot. He didn't give a shit because she brought him black tea when he was working late and told him how much she appreciated how hard he worked and reminded him of all the great things they had in their lives because of the work. Just too bad she passed away. But yeah, that was the point. She made him feel like $1 million. Wine More Please, which you guys may remember, because he's still out and about. YouTube channel, on Twitter. I've had him on the show a few times. The guys without the cynical attitudes, the guys who roll our eyes at the repeated red pill characterizations of women as vapid, selfish, basic bitches who have nothing better to do than act like shitty attention whores. We feel this way because our wives do shit like this, not because they fuck us. Why should we give a shit about that? My wife doesn't let me fuck her. We have sex because it's enjoyable. She does bring me black tea, though, a completely selfish favor that I appreciate. This is being feminine. Women, for whatever biological or sociological reasons, are usually emotionally empathic, perceiving unspoken needs for a loved one and fulfilling it, or doing something to enable the loved ones to fulfill it for themselves. This seems like a borderline mental superpower to most men, but it's a pretty common skill set in most women. And this is why we tell you to hit the fucking gym. No, don't just lose weight. You ran a marathon? Great, good for you. You know who else can run a marathon? Any woman who trains as much as you did. Now, go bench 225. How many women do you think can do that? Like 0.1% of them? If they're Olympic level athletes or using steroids, sure. The reason why lifting is so important is that you realize just the mere ability to lift heavy objects, these are like superpowers to women. My wife's uncanny sense of knowing exactly when I need a snack and some caffeine, that's a superpower. Just like when she says, we should get a cart or something, and I say, nah, I got it, and lug a 60-pound piece of IKEA furniture across the parking lot. No, she's not dripping wet, she's mostly thinking, my husband's effort is completely impractical and yet surprisingly effective. He's just carrying it. I'd have to flag down some guy, ask for a cart, help load it. So, see, if you're one of those men who say, I don't like a woman who's all done up, I like the natural look. You're a fucking liar. You are lying, you fucking idiot. Just as much as those women that says, I don't like muscly guys. I get it. You think women like Sofia Vergara, whoever she is, are a little too overdone or whatever, and I'm sure women legitimately think that The Rock is too big and ideal for them too. Well, your wife isn't Sophia, and you're not The Rock. So maybe it's overly simplistic telling her to wear more makeup to be more feminine, and telling you to hit the gym to be more masculine, and that it will pay dividends in how you're perceived. But in all likelihood, it's not. We're telling you, and the red pill women is telling women to use your goddamn superpowers. As with everybody else, I liked your revised post, and I like this one too. And then he goes into why he likes it, blah, blah, blah. The key point of this one, though, is your wife is craving some goddamn agency. What is agency? It's the ability to exercise your executive function in ways that make you feel successful and self-sufficient. Literal strong and independent woman. The ability to feel like this, while your decisions may not lead to successful outcomes, you are at least empowered to make those decisions. Now, the rest is just more blah, blah, blah to get that point across. The key point in this one, too, and a lot of part of like how dealing with shit tests make you better at this, cut the end here. Having the agency of telling somebody to go fuck themselves makes you a lot less likely to feel like you actually have to do that. And this is the thing. As a guy, no bluffing. Your girl will always bluff. Anytime you posture about how you're tough this and how you can replace her that, she will always call your bluff because you've always failed in the bluffs in the past. So for this one, the idea of building your powers, using your superpowers, building your map, building status, all that stuff, is that the more likely you are to tell your wife to get the fuck out and replace her with somebody better, the less likely it is that she's going to put you in a position where you have to. This is that reason that rich people always get more gifts than poor people. I wish I could explain why. It doesn't really matter. Just know. And back to he's talking about the guy and his wife. See, the problem is that any woman who tries to find agency entirely through motherhood, she's miserable. Being a stay-at-home mom sucks for executive function. It's the difference between being in a line department and a staff department at a company. It's really hard to feel agency in staff departments since it's mostly just repetitive operations. Staff departments are like just basic office work, right? You're a janitor, you clean all the shit in the corporate bathroom just in time for all the workers to file back in and shit in the bathrooms again. Women finding agency in motherhood is like people finding agency in janitorial work. So yeah, he's not shitting on janitors specifically, but he's like, those staff positions suck. It's the same shit, and there's never a sense of achievement, completion, or just finishing. It is possible to feel agency in certain staff departments, but generally, no. And hence, this is why you and your wife have that power. So, more blah, blah, blah. So skip into the end. So when it comes to being feminine, your wife is essentially a Poindexter. She doesn't know what the fuck to do. She's just going to be hysterical that she can't do it. Which is why your whole ramping up the dread thing is probably approaching the point where it's mostly retarded and simply serving as a proxy for your desperate need of validation from women by getting it from other women. Look, man, if you really think about this shit, think about the end game. Do you think if you ramp up the dread enough, your wife is driven to such anxious hysterics that she'll literally self-immolate one day and be reborn as a clone of Scarlett Johansson? Probably not. Ultimately, this is why dread without guidance results in unnecessarily stress in the marriage. There are many ways to motivate your spouse's behavior besides drive them further and further into an anxious wreck. Anyways, I'm skipping all the rest of this stuff here because I can sum this up really succinctly. If you read, it's in Praxeology Volume 2, where I talk about the hamster maze. And the idea is like a girl's hamster is her anxiety. It's lost in a maze. You're gaining value. She's staying stagnant. She wants to be more feminine. She wants to keep you loyal. She wants to get rid of that anxiety, but she has no idea what to do. So when you're at the point that you've gone through phase 1 of the scoreboard, gotten out of your wife's frame and stop having her dictate terms. You've built up your own frame. You're on the second phase of the scoreboard. You know who you are, what you want, your worldview, how to achieve things. Example, right? Now you're on the third phase of the scoreboard. You're putting up points. You're a top tier man. Other women want you. Your wife feels that as like anxiety. So now what? This is where you have to offer exits for the hamster maze. You're not telling her what to do. You're providing an exit. And that's that cuddles ain't free thing, right? So you notice like after she acts feminine, after she has like a great, sexual weekend with you, or, makes you food one day, cleans up the house for you, like all these nice things that they do that make her want to be better and make you happy. The rewarding of good behavior is how you show the exit to the maze. Oh yeah, she blow you on the weekend. It's amazing. The next day you're like extremely present, extremely fun to be around. She feels the lack of anxiety and comfort. Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you so much. She eventually comes to the conclusion that, you know what? I've noticed this. Every time we have sex, I just feel a lot better the next day. It's like, yeah, you don't say. Now, there's hormonal reasons for that, but the other part of it is just once you have your post-nut clarity, you tend to be more pleasant to be around anyway. So it's not even a lie. It's not conditioning. It's just being more honest. You're not putting on a good face that, yeah, we haven't had sex in 6 months, but a real man acts like a good husband. It's like, no, I haven't had laid in 6 months. I'm fucking irritated right now. I am not a pleasant person to be around. The other guy, I got blown 5 times last week. I feel great. Hey, hun, let's go have brunch. Let's go have some avocado toast. See what I mean? So a lot of this stuff kind of adds together when you realize, like, being married like it's your job isn't a bad thing per se. The bad thing is when you think that all you need to do is create anxiety and it'll automatically come. Some women, for lack of a better word, are duds. And you may have found yourself with one. She may have started off as a dud. She may have become a dud over years of inaction. But once you're in a position of strength in the relationship, like you have the status, you have the harmony, then you're able to provide places for this hamster to go, an exit for the maze. And treating you well is how she feels better about herself. And that's the feedback loop you kind of want to encourage in a marriage. And I wish I could say that women are good at doing this, but they're not. Most women have no clue what they're doing. And on the rare case where you have one that is good, most of the time you won't even have to get here. Once you start stepping up and doing your job better, they just start falling right in line and everybody wins. But for some guys, you're going to have to take a more active role in teaching her how to put on a sundress and a summer hat. Yeah, 13. What's that other one? One sec. It was 21? Oh no, 22. Got it. I see Hats and Clogs 4334 with a $5 heartfelt fuck you of a super chat. Your friend, Fesh or Fit, did not follow the iron rules. Good to see you. Take care. Ooh, ooh. Oh, you're bringing up the hooker thing? That's funny. Yeah, poor guy. And yes, I'm alive on a Wednesday. Like I said, I've got to record a bunch of footage, this thing here. Oh, that's so weird. Why did I miss this one? There's 2 in here I forgot to put. I'm not sure why. Oh, that's why. The reason the married red pill, or the women hate married red pill. Oh, yeah, that's fucking ridiculous. That one's ridiculous, too. Alright, I didn't skip them. It's just they're like, there's no value in them. What do we got here next? Skip, turn off brain. Bright little sister. Skip those ones, too. Actually, you know what? I think we'll skip all of them. Yeah. I think we'll call this for a day. I think that's good enough. In fairness to Fresh, he admitted he didn't read Rollo's book. Yeah, well, to be fair, if you need to read a book to know not to nut in a prostitute, I don't know what the fuck to tell you. Why would you do that? Look, first off, I'm of the generation that didn't even want to pay for DVDs. And you're going to tell me like, come on, man. Whatever. Secondly, nutting in people is like the easiest way to get them pregnant. Do people not know this? Rollo's rule isn't saying like don't ever nut. It's like be in control of the birth control, but that's kind of more of like an obvious rule anyways. Let's clean this stuff up. So I got nothing else. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I guess we can work with that. What is for average men who has money right and good shape, but women wouldn't give him the time of day? Is this you, or is this some hypothetical thing? So if it's hypothetical, I don't give a shit. And if it's you, well, it probably means you just have no game. And that's, look, as much as I could do a whole single game thing. I've done it. I've had my fun. It's kind of outside my scope now. Go talk and be charming, like to teach a guy how to be socially inept or socially adept. The best thing was that episode where I just talked about where the guy was treating everybody like like an orbiter. It's hard to tell a guy how to be social and then charming. Just read the mystery method. It'll get you started. Brett, $5 1 cent super chat. What's your take on the COVID vaccine? Did you take it? What a fucking weird question, man. So here, I guess you must be new to the channel. One, out of that whole COVID organ thing, the thing that drove me the most nuts was people talking about their private medical details online publicly. I'm like, what the fuck? Why would you tell people that? It is nobody's business if I take a vaccine or not. Just like it's nobody's business if Cindy had an abortion, if your wife had a miscarriage, like all this shit. I think people are way too comfortable with way too private information. I find it fucking ridiculous. So yeah, don't even ask that stuff, man. That's awkward shit. Maybe the Zoomers are cool with it now, but yeah. How do I get out of a self-destructing depressive spiral? Dude, look, man, I feel for you. I really do. But I just don't have it in me for this right now. I really don't. I really don't. Look, I'll put it this way. You're in a self-destructing depressive spiral right now because you want to be. And you're latching on to somebody because we'll listen. And all you're going to do is suck all of the will to live out of the rest of us. You have to want to get better, and then you have to take action. I'll tell you this much. If you can manage here's how I know if you'd actually want to be something better than that. If you can manage 3-month 5x5 strong list program, I guarantee you'll be 90% of the way out of your self-destructive depressive spiral. And then dealing with obvious shit like making sure you have a job, a place to stay, and you eat food and shower and shit like that. But if you can't be bothered to do that, there's nothing I can add that's going to do any good to you. Which, fun fact, it's a total segue in this, and I'll let you guys go after this. The fight between Jack and I, that's what it was about. He liked these long 4,000 word individual breakdowns of motivations about people. And for me, I was like, dude, these guys are bitching about random shit. If they can't be arsed to read When I Say No, I Feel Guilty, to start a workout program, like if they can't get the bare minimum done, there is nothing we do here that's going to do any good. And so for me, my advice was always like, here is the basic bitch roadmap. If you can handle that, then absolutely, you can have a nice bespoke thing. And Jack was like, everybody deserves it. But I'll tell you this much right now. Jack burnt out and left, and I'm still here. So it's the adage that I have taken in my life here is that I give as much of a shit about people's life as they give about their life. You know what I mean? Well, that's the thing, Stan. Are you going to do it? You're not going to do it? It's not my problem if he does it or not. That's on him. And that's it. No covert contracts here. You can't expect people to get fixed because you throw magic words on a thing. Uh-oh. What unrealized thoughts say now? Lesson, not everyone on the internet is your friend. Nobody on the internet's your friend. There is no friends on the internet. I may be friendly. I may be friendly with you, but we're not friends. And I'm not saying that as a mean thing. I don't fucking know who you are. Hell, either one of us, if we walked by each other on the street, neither one of us would recognize each other. I don't wear Hawaiian shirts when I'm buying groceries. And you, I don't think you look like a pencil sketch. If the end result is the same, been alone or been divorced, do all the work. Yeah, it sounds like, you know what's funny? That sounds like kids who go like, why make the bed? It's just going to get messy. Why bother learning anything if the outcome isn't perfect for all time? Oh, I don't know. Did you ever think that maybe you'll get some like decent life skills and experience along the way that you could possibly transferable to the next thing? Did you ever think? No, that's possible. If it's not perfect, it was a waste of time. I was a graphic designer out of college. That was fun. Didn't end up sticking with it, didn't like it, joined the military. Graphic design really comes in handy when you're writing a book. Laying out the desktop publishing. Being in the military, did it for 12, 13 years, didn't work out, didn't like it, decided to move on. Security stuff really comes in handy in here about not doxing your fucking family online. A lot of the military stuff is the reason I still wake up at 5:30, 6 in the morning every day and I can do a full work day while everybody else is just sitting there bullshitting on Twitter. Well, if you left the military, why'd you even do it? It's like, yeah, I got a lot out of it. I don't know what to tell you. Same thing with a marriage. I'm not even saying a marriage. Like a marriage is like just a relationship. Marriage has always been a bad idea for men. Ryan's channeling Cappy in it. No, I'm recording footage. That's it. Anyways, I'm done. I'm going to go take a break for a little bit. It's 4 o'clock. And I might slip in a little Minecraft stream or maybe even some Tekken for pennies. I haven't done that in forever. I don't know. Anyways, unless there's any super chats I missed, we're going to call it. Let me see. Oh, I guess, Brett, you did ask about my take on the COVID vaccine. Yeah, dude. I mean, come on. You can tell when they're fear mongering you. Remember that was supposed to kill? That was supposed to be the end of the world. And then all of a sudden everybody's like, actually, it's not so bad. And now everybody catches it every year and it's no big deal. But back then it was like, dude, we got to close the economy down. That was the stupidest tulip mania we ever had. And now there's like, you know how many neurotic people are out in the streets right now wearing masks for no fucking reason? It's like, bro, why? Why do you want to live like that? But there, I'm like, you know what? I'd rather be nervous all life. And I'm like, well, at least now you got a uniform so I can see if that shit ever hits the fan. Who are the guys that I know are just going to cry and shit themselves? Those guys? All right. I'm not going to ask for them for help. Anyways, enough of this random nonsense. I'll catch you guys later. Cheers.